as a decidedly Texas flair, decidedly Dixie, decidedly South, decidedly non-Prager, non-California. It must be a fill-in guy. Welcome, everybody. Mark Davis, your Texas talk show buddy today. Dennis is back tomorrow to finish up the week for you, to finish you up for this Friday. And I'm just thrilled to be here, as I always am. I always take stock of what has happened since we were last together. Not that I don't pretend that all of y'all are marking time since I was here last, but I do, because I do for those unfamiliar, I'm the very happy Monday through Friday morning host here at Salem's own 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. And my regular broadcast routine is punctuated by these wonderful opportunities that I get to come fill in for Dennis every once in a while, fill in for Hugh Hewitt sometimes, fill in for the great Larry Elder, which I will do tomorrow, by the way, if you want to fill in your listening dance card there. And especially in this day and time, it's particularly surreal as we work our way through the summer. And I guess it was earlier in the summer when we were talking about various things related to the election, to be sure, related to the virus, to be sure. And those things, those stories are the same, but they are very different now. And I've been listening all week and listening to everybody's shows on this Labor Day shortened week. And so I come to you this morning with a couple of things that I want to do that are very broad in terms of virus progress, in terms of President Trump's progress, in terms of the status of the Biden campaign, in terms of a couple of things that are unique to today on the calendar. Tonight, a day like today is usually a national holiday to me. It is the beginning of the NFL season, and I could not possibly care less. The world champion Kansas City Chiefs, and I loved Pat Mahomes, Texas Tech, guns up. How do you not love that? If the Cowboys can't make it, that was a wonderful result last year. This year, I could not possibly care less. What drove me away? What drove you away, if it did? What is it that has smashed our ability to enjoy sports? There's a pretty interesting and compelling NBA postseason underway, I understand. Can't prove it by me, because I ain't watching. This might have happened since I was here last. A little Twitter war between Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and Ted Cruz. I kind of started that. I don't know if I say that proudly. I live to bring people together with whatever they want to do naturally. Listen, let me tell you that story in a second, because the answer to that question is the social justice activism. Listen, I do talk shows for a living. I'm all about differences of opinion and slinging hot opinions and debating things out and hashing them out and agreement and disagreement. I'm all about that. But when people venture into the realm that I have usually had for my entire life, to escape all of that, to get past all of that, when they seek to hijack it for a political statement, I'm out. I'm out. So I've been out on the NBA. It looks like I'll be out on the NFL. And here in the DFW area, our vaunted Dallas Cowboys, so-called America's team. Are you kidding me? America's team taking a knee during the anthem? Now, we don't have our game. It's at Los Angeles, at the Rams, on Sunday, and that's kind of a Rams thing. I guess the home team figures out what it's going to do, and if they're all down there kneeling, does the opposing team? Well, I guess we better do it too. I'm going to hold the Cowboys responsible when they have their home opener against Atlanta on the 20th, and if one knee hits the turf, I reach for the remote and I am gone. They have done this to me. They have driven me away. Now, well, I'll go ahead and tell you the story. So I mentioned with regard to the NBA, look, because the Mavericks, are you kidding me? Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, interesting if tough to pronounce roster. And I said, man, I wish the Mavericks best, but I'll tell you, if they, and by the way, Black Lives Matter on the shirts, slogans on the back of the jerseys, stuff festooned across the court, knock yourselves out. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. Jack with the anthem and I'm gone. If one knee hits the court, down there in the Florida bubble, I'm gone. Mark Cuban tweets back to me, bye. Bye. One word, 3 letters. Ted Cruz weighs in. Really? He says. Really? You're going to give the back of your hand to everybody that values the flag and the anthem? And the answer is apparently so. So the NBA is dead to me. And the NFL, which has always been my favorite sport ever, is about to be dead to me too. And they do not care. They do not care. Listen, speaking of the Rams, a lot of y'all are out in Los Angeles. I have loved watching Hard Knocks, the HBO documentary on the fly. It's been about the Rams and the Chargers. They're doing both the LA teams. Y'all are about to open up a new stadium out there. Looks great. See how that works out. They don't care. They just don't care. The kneeling mentality is it's about me and my views. And if you are not just repel, and this is the irony. This is the ridiculous irony. We don't disagree. As a country, we're totally ready to not have, or to try to reduce as best we can, incidents like the George Floyd death, to look really hard at what happened with Jacob Blake in Kenosha. I don't know. I mean, that video to my untrained layperson eye looks pretty bad. But you know what? Then I had a bunch of cops call. I had one guy call me and say, okay, Mark, here's the deal. The guy's a lawbreaker. He is evading arrest. He's resisting arrest. He is disobeying lawful orders. He knows we've drawn down on him, and he's diving into his car to get what? I don't know, knife? Knife is involved. Do we know that it, and what everybody says is, well, they just should have waited. They just should have waited. Let's just see what this young man had in mind. There are graveyards filled with cops who waited. And I ain't having it. This notion that they always need to sit around and, just file 4 types of paperwork until we find out whether somebody wants to kill you. Now, is this me saying that I know the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha was clean? No, I do not. No, I do not. But you know what? Nor does anybody else know that it was improper. That's why we have evidence. That's why we have facts. That's why we take the time to look at these things. That America is gone. That America has been swamped in the fires of riots, shattered in the glass in the streets, tossed to the curb by kneeling athletes who don't care about doing the hard and heavy lifting. If characters like LeBron James stepped forward and said, look, we're going to speak out on our own time, and we're going to help with relations between these police departments and their communities, and look at training, look at de-escalation, look at maybe the grip that police unions have over the inability to get rid of some cops who maybe shouldn't ought to be cops, or as long as they have. Because I don't know about you, but I am also tired of hearing that, officer whatever, this was his 12th complaint against him. What? How is this guy still a cop? And I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Just every once in a while, you'll hear that. Maybe there are some people we ought to get rid of. Maybe there's some bad seeds we need to get rid of more conscientiously. But those conversations aren't happening because there's kneeling and rioting and mouthing off and all of this political nonsense. And listen, at some point today, because I only got one day this week, right here in DFW, King Daddy Airline of DFW, American Airlines, going to let the flight attendants, whoever else, I don't know, wear Black Lives Matter pins. Are they insane? Are they patently insane? And if anybody is saying, well, they're just all they want to do is just kind of reveal how valuable life is and how sensitive they are to police brutality. No. We all oppose police brutality. We all value black lives, and everybody else's as well. Black Lives Matter is a radical anti-family, anti-First Amendment, fascist Marxist group. Black Lives Matter is a wonderful sentence in the English language. It's a beautiful sentiment. As a group, it's terrible. It's terrible. And the pin says advocacy. The pin says advocacy. Let me duck out because that was me getting all mouthy. We usually say a little prayer at the beginning of every show I do locally. I'm going to do one for you right here nationwide next. Mark Davis in for Dennis, 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Real glad to be here. Talk to you in a minute.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide school choice, teach American exceptionalism unapologetically, defend the police as an institution, oppose human trafficking. These and other measures offer sanity, flourishing, and hope to an embattled country. No agenda can cover every issue. Two outstanding issues need platforming, however: religious liberty and abortion. The Trump administration has taken stands on both of these momentous matters and to good effect. In days ahead, though, supporters of religious liberty and the unerasable humanity of the unborn need more support, not less. Religious liberty, after all, is for this gloriously free society the first freedom. Among other righteous ends, it enables a diverse coalition of many voices to speak on behalf of the unborn, until the murderous abomination of abortion is a distant memory. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Chinese Communist Party model today is to create vassal states, tributary states that have to pay tribute to Beijing as the Middle Kingdom. There's a long history of this. It presents enormous risks to the world, and President Trump has recognized this presents a real risk to the United States of America, and in every front, whether it's diplomatic or economic, the United States is pushing back.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, China says they're making great progress on a vaccine. So does Russia. How are we going to trust either of these countries? And how are we going to trust the WHO when the WHO just flubbed it and China lied about the virus, and Russia, I don't know how we can trust them on anything. They're interfering with the election again. How can we possibly trust their claims on vaccines?
When I spoke in Southern California that day with respect to Chinese Communist Party, I said distrust but verify. I think with respect to the vaccines that are coming out of these countries, that's precisely the right model that we'll have to use. The whole world will have to take a good hard look and make sure that we have real scientific data in the same way we demand of anyone that puts forward a vaccine for sale and for distribution. My confidence level in the WHO is near zero in its capability to act in a science-based way and not a political way. And we've watched the Russians and the Chinese hurry these vaccines to market in an attempt to make not a medical breakthrough or an epidemiological breakthrough, but a political, diplomatic breakthrough that's not in the best interest of the world. If we get a vaccine out there that doesn't work, that could create further devastation, further loss of life. We saw the Chinese Communist Party cover up the virus that came from their country. I hope that they don't take actions that further put this world at risk.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
No, explain your point. Why is the president wrong in giving the police some kind of... What's your criticism? I need it to be clearer.
The Pentagon is apparently involved with policing policies in our country. He has to sever that connection, number one.
Hang on. You can't say stuff like that. What do you mean the Pentagon is involved somehow in policing policies? What are you talking about? You can't make statements like that unless you back it up. What are you talking about?
It's pretty obvious there is some big hand behind all the police departments that stems from the military.
What are you talking about?
Our Pentagon is in bed with our police departments. That has to stop.
No. What are you talking about? Give me one example of what you're talking about in a piece of evidence.
America has gone bad. America has gone.
And if you do that, you'll notice, hey, That does not look like Dennis Prager. And Yorker, that doesn't look like Dennis's room. I mean, my gosh, Dennis must be out. He's back tomorrow with you right now. You are right here with me in Irving, Texas, visually, if you're watching there at DennisPrager.com. Here in the studios of 660 AM The Answer, where every morning I do the show from 7 to 10 a.m. And I begin before I start ranting and raving about anything or taking calls or slinging hot opinions about anything. And this is, I did it the first day I was yanked back from vacation. Remember that day in the middle of March? I guess it was March 11th or something when the NBA shut down and we learned that Tom Hanks had it. And oh my gosh, and all the restaurants are freaking out. We're all wondering what lies ahead. And I came back from vacation to do a Thursday show. And I said, look, before we talk about anything, because this is very strange and nobody knows where this is going to go, I think we need to have a word with God. And I prayed. And I've done it every day since. And the whole COVID thing may be past us in a couple of months or hopefully next year or whatever. I don't envision stopping this. What, you think we're going to run out of things to pray about? The list may grow, especially if November 3rd doesn't go the way we need. So, Lord, today, we ask you for wisdom and for goodwill. The wisdom to navigate our problems from COVID-19 to social strife to anything else, to fill us with the energy to be smart and safe as we reclaim our lives here in the virus era. Let us lift up those whose lives and livelihoods have been sidelined or affected in some way by shutdowns and restrictions. Help us find smart solutions to all of our social problems, even as troublemakers seek to divide us. Amid these divisions, let us treat each other with respect and patience as we work together to change what should be changed, but to resist those who would opportunistically sweep aside vast portions of our history and our culture. Remind us, Almighty God, that in these most challenging of times that you are always here to show us, to unite us, to follow your guidance, and to show us to treat each other as we would like to be treated. Because if we follow you, Lord, we know we can get through anything. And we ask these things in your holy name. Amen. All righty. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Here's 60 seconds for me on the Trump tapes and the Woodward book and all of this nonsense. And then we'll go to calls about stuff I brought up and things you may yet want to bring up. Everything is seen through the lens of 2020 hindsight, and those lenses are coated with a special treatment of Trump hatred in the case of many. And when I take a look at some of these reactions from the left, this is another smear, because people are looking at today with 190,000 cases and the various number of people, or 190,000 dead, excuse me. And the millions of cases. And did anybody know exactly how this was going to go? Did they know that it was going to be this bad? Did some people think it was going to be not as bad? Did some people think it was going to be worse? I mentioned that day that I came back from vacation to suddenly thrust back into the talk show world, I guess March 11th. I remember the shows I was doing that day. I remember that I said, listen, here we are. It's going to be something. Let's be ready for it in some way. I didn't know we were going to shut down everybody's life for an entire season. And I opposed that every step of the way. Still do. We did not have to do this. When you run your entire policy through virus mitigation and only virus mitigation and have no place in your heart and no place in your mind and no place in your agenda for people's lives and how they're grotesquely shattered against the curb, people's schooling, people's jobs, people's livelihoods, people's retirement. Oh, we got to try to reduce the virus to zero. We were never going to do that. We were never going to be able to do that. It's a stinking virus. It's going to kill some people. One death is too many. I hate that. Some viruses are going to be more deadly than others. But that whole speculative mindset puts me in the thought of what President Trump was talking about. One phone call in February, one in March. Those are the ones making all the big news. Oh, look what he said. It's like he knew it was going to be this bad, and he didn't tell us. What a load of hooey. The 2020 hindsight, throw in with the dishonest, corrupt media culture, And what you end up with is people suggesting that somehow Joe Biden would have known better. There's audio of Joe Biden at the end of February saying, don't everybody panic. Saying, don't panic. Biden saying, don't panic. No kidding. Fauci said, don't panic. Surgeon General said, don't wear a mask. That was America of late winter. So now that we sit there and take a look through the wisdom, that some would call it wisdom, the wisdom that we now have here in September, and we think we now have known everything ever since February and March. This is a ridiculous smear. It is a couple of days story, and there is nothing more comical than people just with the pearl clutching. Oh, we got him now. This is worse than Watergate. Good grief. Anyway, Artie, we're in Houston. Hey, Jermaine. Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm reminded of the 2016 election and the unprecedented amount of opposition that Trump received from not only the other candidates in the race, but prominent conservative commentators, conservative publications like the National Review. Both former Republican presidents refused to endorse him. We had this never Trump phenomenon, which I haven't
see how that worked out
before. Then he was selected. Then there was a nationwide protest that we didn't even see in 2000. And then the scores of people in his administration, from General Kelly to Sessions.
If I sense where you're going, first of all, the Never Trumpers, Jermaine, we got a couple of minutes. From the Never Trumpers are insignificant. The number of actual the actual commentators coming out against him were never particularly conservative. National Review embarrassed itself. He has stratospheric support among Republicans, and so he's either going to win or he's going to lose. And this notion of that, he's so divisive. Listen, do you remember Obama? I'm a conservative. I was on fire with discord every day of that horrible presidency. Every presidency is going to have people who like it and people who don't. This one, in that regard, is not particularly different. The one that's different about this one is the change is real. Conservatism has never had a bigger bullhorn. So there are two groups of people that are going to be fussing and whining and moaning. Liberals and squishy conservatives. And that's what you're hearing.
General Kelly is a squishy conservative?
General Kelly is a snake. Jim Mattis is a snake.
Okay.
John Bolton is a snake. These are people, and I'm sorry, they absolutely are. These are, maybe not so much Kelly. I think Kelly has an honest streak. Mattis is a snake. John Bolton is a turncoat. These are people who are freaked out by Trump. They thought they'd be able to change him, and they learned otherwise, didn't they? So the change is real. The change is real. It's bolder than it's been since Reagan. America either likes it enough to reelect him or doesn't. And we're going to find out on the 3rd of November. But this notion that, this is so divisive, so terrible. Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. I'm loving every day. Thank God he won. And I'm going to move heaven and earth to help him win again. We'll see how that works out. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Stick around.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Your response is to throw that businesswoman under the bus. After 6 months of businesses being harassed by Democrat governors like your nephew, you're blaming her. A business owner who's since been interviewed, who says that she's receiving hourly harassment on social media and that her business is probably going to go down because of Nancy's attitude. Is that what being set up means? I'll tell you what it means. It means that you have utter disdain for the people who elected you. It means that you have utter contempt for the American people. Not only in the way you treated that individual, but also when it comes to the coronavirus. If you actually believe the things you have been vomiting at us, the verbal diarrhea about the Chinese virus for the last 6 months, you'd have that mask stapled to your face. You'd be walking around in a bubble. But no, instead you don't wear a mask. So what does that mean about your attitude to the coronavirus? Is it not a pandemic? Is it a hoax for you, Nancy? Really? Because that's what you've accused conservatives. That's what you've accused the president of saying.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Donald Trump has praised military leaders. He's increased the military budget and rebuilt the military. And for you to believe that Donald Trump does not support the military is completely inconsistent with his actions. Okay, but let's assume that that doesn't even persuade you. I just want to talk to you about the focus of this for today. This being the lead story on CNN, lead story on MSNBC. Why can't you make the case that the lead story should have been the story about Judicial Watch filing a lawsuit claiming that the CIA has admitted that they've destroyed records relating to an allegation that Joe Biden inappropriately touched a Secret Service agent's wife? Furthermore, this unnamed source claims that it wasn't just one time, that Biden would frequently walk around naked and engage in other very inappropriate activity. This was an article that was published in 2017 in Gateway Pundit. It said that Biden had a hands problem and that other Secret Service agents complained about the way Biden touched their wives and their girlfriends. Suddenly, the documents purporting to claim all of this are missing. And Judicial Watch has filed a lawsuit to try to retrieve these documents if they in fact exist, because they claim that the Secret Service has acknowledged that the documents were in fact destroyed. Now, why isn't that a story?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide...
It's the Thursday Dennis Prager Show. Dennis is back tomorrow. I'm Mark Davis filling in from 660 a.m. The Answer in Dallas, Fort Worth, talking about all kinds of things. Of course, a lot of it swirls around the vortex that is the election, where America itself is on the ballot. The police are on the ballot. Radicals pushing to defund law enforcement, doing nothing to deter the looting and violence tearing apart our nation's cities. Our safety is on the ballot. Our way of life is on the ballot. So, really glad to urge you to join in an effort sponsored by Job Creators Network, working with the biggest conservative hosts in America, all of us here on the Salem Radio Network. The election's about one thing: turnout. And the left has their get out the vote machinery, and we need ours. That's why the single most important thing you can do to save our country is go to keepamericaamerika.com. keepamericaamerika.com. Get it? And become a volunteer in the biggest get out the vote effort in conservative history. You'll be given tasks that can make a difference in November. Do a little, do a lot, but please do something. Go to keepamericaamerika.com right now. That's keepamericaamerika. Okay, to the phones. Mark Davis in for Dennis. We are in Rockland, California. Hey, Melanie. Mark in for Dennis. How are you? Happy Thursday.
Hi, Mr. Davis. Happy Thursday. This is Melanie. I had the privilege of speaking to you last time you were in.
That's great.
And you inspired me to call this time with your remark on the NFL. Mm-hmm. My dad and I have followed college sports. We love college football. I enjoy the NFL for the Super Bowl, the commercials and that show.
Sure.
And it's really sad, the people who are avid NFL fans, they love those teams just like I love the college teams.
Sure.
And what these men are choosing to do, to kneel, what really inspired me or triggered me to call you is that those men are still young enough to have grandfathers that fought in World War II or were participated in the war effort or did something, and these guys don't care. Their grandfathers must be disgusted if they're still alive or rolling in their graves if they're not, because they didn't fight for that flag to have their grandchildren behave this way.
Couple of things. Some who have worn some, and it's not many, but it's some who wear that flag today will tell you, yeah, we did. They'll say, we wear that flag so that you guys can express yourselves in any way you wish. And that's technically true. However, this is not about anybody's rights. It's not about the right to do anything. It's about whether it is right. Of course, everybody's got the right to engage in whatever kind of a prank, whatever kind of narcissistic exercise they wish. You're not going to be hauled off to jail. You have the right. If your employer says no, they have the right to keep you from doing it, but the NFL doesn't have the guts to do that. People try to toss this in my face all the time. They say, well, my dad was a Navy SEAL and he thinks this kneeling thing is okay. Well, good for him. Okay. Vast majority of veterans don't. I believe the majority of Americans don't. And please understand, everybody, none of this is about rights. It's about whether it is right. It's about whether it is proper to hijack the national anthem for your own political statement. And maybe this is the most important thing I'll say today. I'm universally broad about this observation. If somebody came to me one year and said, hey, Mark, we want to kneel in the anthem because there's too much abortion in America, or we want to kneel for the anthem because our borders are too soft, or our taxes are too high, or 100 issues that I'm passionate about for my entire life, and they say we want to kneel during the anthem to reveal our passion about this issue, I would tell them, do not do it. Don't jack with the anthem. And so if you do run across someone who is sufficiently ambivalent about the flag and the anthem, even somebody who has worn the uniform or who wears it today, respect their view, because they have a right to their view just like I have a right to mine, and you got a right to yours. But make a point to them that what you want to establish, what you want to reestablish, is an America in which the anthem is the one place where we unite, where we understand that we feel different ways about different things, and we have all kinds of different passions and different ways to feel about things. But the anthem is the place where we put all of those differences aside and we unite to celebrate this country that lets us have these differences of opinion. The anthem itself is not a place to bring your specific opinions. It is the opposite of that. It's a place to say we're a diverse nation, diverse racially, diverse religiously, diverse ideologically. But for this minute and 20 seconds, we will stand united and show respect for this country that allows it. Mark Davison for Dennis Prager. Be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
How much has your life changed since you pushed back on that racist comment where you were singled out for your skin color, Lawrence?
Unimaginably so, sadly. Well, no, not sadly, actually, because there's been some wonderful things that have come from it. But yes, I've been hounded out of the acting business. I spend quite a lot of time on Twitter with film directors giving me grief. And I just ask them nice questions in return. But sometimes I get a few direct messages from them going, oh, I'm only playing to the crowd. And I'm going, but that's my career you're playing to the crowd with, chum. So it's been interesting.
What about inspiration? I heard you mention cab drivers. Talk to us about the positive side effects of saying no to cancel culture and about the lives you've touched. I'm sure you get almost daily feedback in response to you actually standing up to these crazies.
I do. Whenever I walk the dogs in the park with my dad, which I do on a daily basis, people come and stop me all the time. And yesterday I was having lunch in a restaurant in London around the corner from a meeting, and the former Chancellor of the Exchequer in England came up to me and went, please, whatever you do, don't stop speaking.
Did you ever think, as a young actor, as a young singer and musician, that the former Chancellor of the Exchequer of Great Britain would come up to you one day and say something like that to you, Lawrence?
Well, the owner of the restaurant asked me that exact question when he was stood next to me at the time. He said, "You didn't see this one coming, did you, chum?" I was like, no, I didn't.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Now, there are some new poll numbers. This again, a Rasmussen poll. President Trump is now at 52%, despite this bombardment that he gets time and time and time again. It really is amazing. I made this point, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before. If the media were truly fair and balanced, the man would be up 15 points. It would be a cakewalk. This is what we're up against. New York Times has not endorsed a Republican for president since 1956. The Washington Post has never done so. Over 90% of the news covering Donald Trump is negative. Never mind the economy. Never mind getting us out of this stupid Iran deal that at one time even Chuck Schumer opposed. Never mind moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem that Obama and George W. Bush promised to do and didn't do. Never mind stopping the caravans. You don't see any headlines anymore, do you? Never mind that. Never mind changing the asylum rules. Never mind getting Mexico to put their military on the border to stop this nonsense. Never mind getting the NATO countries to pony up more money, something that George W. Bush and Obama complained about, did nothing about. Never mind any of the things this man has done. He is just a racist, right? Unbelievable. Meanwhile, despite all of that, according to Rasmussen, his approval ratings are now at 52%. And guess what his numbers are for black voters? 45%. Are you kidding me? I think he got 7% of the black vote in 2016. He's at 45% right now, according to Rasmussen.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Now, Mr. Secretary, the last time I saw you was at the Nixon Library talking about China, and it was a historic speech. But it followed about 10 days that China.
It is the Thursday Dennis Prager Show here on this September 10th, 2020. Boy, I've made reference for a couple of decades to a September 10th mentality. You know what that means? It means the notion of, it's a reference to September 10th, 2001, when we all blithely walked around unaware of the level of danger that the jihadist world posed to us. Well, we found out the following day, didn't we? And tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of 9/11. When we get into the next hour, let me work through some calls here, but I can go ahead and invite this now if you want to do it. Did we win the war on terror and nobody told us? I mean, I knew there was never going to be a parade, never going to be a signing ceremony on the deck of the USS Missouri. We had VJ Day, VE Day, got rid of Hitler, got rid of Imperial Japan. There was never going to be a VT Day, a victory over terror. But we're drawn down troops, ISIS and, beheadings and stuff seem like stuff from headlines past. I always said that victory, air quotes, in the war on terror was going to be a different kind of definition by which we understood that there was always going to be some residual amount of terrorism that would rear its head from time to time. But victory would be when we didn't have entire parts of the world that seemed like they were hell-bent on killing us. We didn't have entire regimes out of control toward that evil end. And it was not going to be like flipping a switch where we'd wake up one morning and go, oh, well, I guess we're done with that. And I wonder if maybe we're there. So maybe let's start to ask in the next hour. You can go ahead and place your calls now. 1-8-PRAGER-776. Did we kind of win the war on terror and it was just so gradual and so slow that we just kind of go, okay, well, here we are. The other thing I want to do is I am 62. And so for 9/11, I'm 43. My daughter is about to turn 29. And so she was a teenager. Not a teenager, shoot, she was a pre-adolescent. Math skills are not my strong suit. She was like third grade. And, but maybe you were a teenager. Or maybe you were 6, or maybe you were 2. I mean, there are adults walking around who have no real memory. No, I mean, you're technically an adult. You just turned 21. What's your memory of 9/11? You got nothing. You're a toddler. So what does it really mean to you? Is it like Pearl Harbor to me? Pearl Harbor happened 16 years before I was born. I'm well aware of it. I talked to my parents about it. They were young kids for Pearl Harbor, but I have no firsthand, wrap my brain around kind of thing about Pearl Harbor. So there are a whole lot of folks walking around for whom 9/11 is that same thing. Give me a buzz. Let's spend a moment on that because we're not together tomorrow. Dennis is, and so, hey, this is my shot, so I'm taking it now. The September 10th mentality, to be sure. 1-8-Prager-776. Back to your calls. Let's see what's going on. We are in Livermore, California. Ray, hi. Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
It's always a pleasure to have you filling in for Dennis or
Thank
for
you.
Larry. Thank you, Mark Davis. Your wonderful, sound, grounded voice. Speaking on the NBA, NFL, American Airlines, I think it's really unfortunate when you lecture and condemn good people, honest people of goodwill on sins that they have not committed. You're actually diminishing your cause and your message. In fact, you're creating contempt for the very thing that you're trying to gain support on.
What a spectacular point, because wouldn't you ordinarily think, if you're about some type of social justice, that your goal is to attract people to your point of view with how compelling your argument is, how inviting you are for new adherents to your point of view, and the whole BLM, America's racist hellhole, everybody else sucks, it drives people away rather than attracts them.
Correct. When you yell in my face with a bullhorn while I'm trying to eat dinner on a city street because I can't go inside because of some ridiculous government mandate, you're not going to make me sympathetic to your cause. I'm sorry.
No, and Ray, I'll tell you what, this is something. Let me just thank you enormously. Here's a paragraph I'm going to walk through very, very carefully. There are on the spectrum of American attitudes. There are people who have achieved all the enlightenment we should all have. And in America, we still have a sliver of people who are still stone cold racists. They're not as many as some people would have you believe, but maybe fewer than some others might believe. On the spectrum in between that, full enlightenment and still in the caves of, their own, racial issues, there are X million Americans, and I don't know what the number X is, who are in progress, who are in transit, who maybe they're of a certain age, and maybe they, grew up tossing around an occasional what they thought was a harmless N-bomb. Hey, didn't mean it. How many of us have relatives, especially who grew up in the South, have relatives who might have, had that in the vernacular back in the 30s or the 40s or something like that? Well, maybe this was, if you came of age in the 40s, 50s, 60s, if you're 70 some years old, just to pick an age, the America of your young adulthood was not a racially enlightened place. And maybe you haven't made that journey as much as some other folks have. Anyway, my point being, if the idea is to create more racial enlightenment, to create more goodwill, to create more people signing on to the cause of helping fight racism, the worst thing you can do is blow stuff up, riot, call people names, say that we're a horrible racist country, go ripping down statues of everybody from Jefferson to Columbus. All that does is take those people who are sort of teetering on the brink of enlightenment, and it makes them go, oh, hell no, I'm good. And you lose. And here's the thing. That's what tells me, and it should tell you, that a lot of these activists do not care at all about really winning people over. Do not care at all about winning a battle ideologically and doing the kind of heavy lifting that results in success. All they want to do is reach for power and money and attention and viral clicks now. And that's really sad, because really solving whatever problems we have left, and we do have some, requires serious work and goodwill. Mark Davison for Dennis. Stick around. Much more to come.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Now, Mr. Secretary, the last time I saw you was at the Nixon Library talking about China, and it was a historic speech. But it followed about 10 days the China-Iran deal, and we didn't talk about that because we didn't quite yet know it. I'd like to ask you, how ominous is that partnership, and contrast it with the United Arab Emirates-Israeli deal that was put together by you and the president and the entire team, Jared, et cetera?
So it is a stark contrast. If you watch what's happening, that's what I talked about when I was in Southern California, that if you look at the Chinese Communist Party today and what General Secretary Xi is doing, you see whether it is the actions internal to the country, the enormous human rights violations, the way they're treating the Uyghurs and even the Mongols in the north and the Tibetans. This is a gross deterioration in the basic human rights that General Secretary Xi is providing for his own people, but then externally. When you watch what's happening between India and China today, where the Chinese Communist Party has moved more soldiers to that border, more forces to that border than any time since the early 1960s, and causing huge problems for other countries in Southeast Asia in their ability to simply exercise their basic rights inside their own economic zones. This is a Chinese Communist Party that is authoritarian and has a deep desire for a hegemonic rule all around the world. Contrast that with the United Arab Emirates. They made a historic decision to recognize Israel and to come to a common understanding about the real threat to the people of the Emirates, which emanates certainly not from the State of Israel, but rather from the Islamic Republic of Iran. These are big global shifts, and the things President Trump has been leading on for the 3.5 years I've been part of this administration.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Your response is to throw that businesswoman under the bus. After 6 months of businesses being harassed by Democrat governors like your nephew, you're blaming her. A business owner who's since been interviewed, who says that she's receiving hourly harassment on social media and that her business is probably going to go down because of Nancy's attitude. Is that what being set up means? I'll tell you what it means. It means that you have utter disdain for the people who elected you. It means that you have utter contempt for the American people. Not only in the way you treated that individual, but also when it comes to the coronavirus. If you actually believe the thing.
Dennis Prager Show. Final segment of the first hour here on Thursday, September 10th. I'm going to jump to this because I'm sufficiently interested. We got a lot of stuff going on. Is America going to boycott an America-hating NFL? The Trump Woodward pseudo debacle. I want to do some Supreme Court talk because the president put out his list of Supreme Court justices, of potential Supreme Court justices. I love the list. I'm going to take 30 seconds here. I love Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a friend of mine. I do not want him on the Supreme Court. Why, Mark? I thought you said you loved him. I thought you said that's exactly why. That entire list has like 20 people on it, all of whom are great constitutionalist justices. How many Ted Cruzes are there out there? If Ted Cruz is plucked from the Senate to go be on the Supreme Court, what does my state of Texas do? Who runs? Do I even know if I would like everybody? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Heck no, I don't want Ted Cruz in the Supreme Court. And it's because I love him. Oh, and you, when you're a Supreme Court justice, you speak through your writings, your rulings, your opinions, and that's lovely. That's powerful stuff. But you can't be on cable shows. You can't come talk to me. You can't hang out. You can't go out across America and fight for conservative values. And that's what I need Ted Cruz for. So if his office wants me to stop saying that, I will. Till then, that's my thought. All righty. I asked, since tomorrow's the 19th anniversary of 9/11, there were a couple, I asked, did we kind of win the war on terror? And nobody told us. And the second thing was, I wanted people sort of a certain age who were kids for 9/11, and now you're adults. And so here's a gentleman in Walnut Creek, California. And Daniel, not only are you in your early 30s, but I understand also that you were born in what was still the Soviet Union, correct? How you doing? Mark Davis in for Dennis.
Good morning, Mark Davis. Pleasure to speak with you. Yeah,
it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you. Floor is yours.
So, yeah, I mean, let me just preface with what I'm about to say with, I usually don't call into talk shows. I do listen funny and you and Dennis Prager, but, this is one of the things that I've grown more and more conservative since, coming out of college, partly thanks to my parents, partly just seeing what's around me, and I just had to call in for something like this.
What was the circumstance? What was the circumstance that led to your birth? If you were born in what, circa 1988?
87, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So the Berlin Wall had not fallen yet. What was going on in the? Nope. Why were you born in the USSR?
Just circumstances, World War II. Previous just conflicts around other parts of the Soviet Union and war with Germany. So my grandparents fled and whatnot.
Well, pardon me for bogging down. 30 seconds. What does tomorrow mean to you?
Tomorrow's a big deal for me. I grew up, I was in sixth grade roughly when 9/11 happened. And for most people, I feel like, especially nowadays, they probably lost sight of what 9/11 means. But
totally,
I remember very, very clearly waking up in the morning, sixth grade, seeing on television everybody in my family huddled around and consider the fact that we're immigrants.
That's all y'all did.
We're naturalized by then. And
exactly. And pardon me for being so brief and bogging down early with details, but if it's funny, maybe one of those instances where folks who are immigrants might have even more clarity than those of us born here. Back in a moment. Sorry about that.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide school choice, teach American exceptionalism unapologetically, defend the police as an institution, oppose human trafficking. These and other measures offer sanity, flourishing, and hope to an embattled country. No agenda can cover every issue. Two outstanding issues need platforming, however: religious liberty and abortion. The Trump administration has taken stands on both of these momentous matters and to good effect. In days ahead, though, supporters of religious liberty and the unerasable humanity of the unborn need more support, not less. Religious liberty, after all, is for this gloriously free society the first freedom. Among other righteous ends, it enables a diverse coalition of many voices to speak on behalf of the unborn, until the murderous abomination of abortion is a distant memory. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden saying during an event at Grace Lutheran Church in Wisconsin, quote, "A black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison," close quote. You feel that guilty? That Thomas Edison now, he needs to be taken down a few notches? Thomas Edison now needs to be canceled? Nobody's mad at Joe Biden for making this false statement? But you let Donald Trump pass along some statement that somebody else made. Oh, my goodness, Donald Trump peddling conspiracy theories. Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record. When I was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, I would go to black churches and we'd sit down and talk about how we're going to organize to desegregate lunch counters and movie theaters in Wilmington, Delaware. No evidence whatsoever that he did that. And don't go by me, go by New York Times. New York Times, paper of record. the one that hasn't endorsed a Republican since 1956, that paper. Lied for decades. Lied and said the NAACP has endorsed me every single race. NAACP puts out a statement, actually, we've never endorsed you at all because we're a 501c3. We can't do that. Well, you know, I got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela when he's in prison under apartheid South Africa. I was with Andy Young. Andy Young says, "You kidding me? No, I didn't get arrested, and then neither did Joe Biden." By the way, Joe Biden says he was in the streets of Soweto when he got arrested. That's 900 miles away from where Nelson Mandela was housed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
What do you make of the four debate moderators? We've got Chris Wallace, Steve Scully, Kristen Welker, and Susan Page for the vice presidents. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting mix of people. Certainly, I think you've got some people, you know, seasoned journalists who have been around a long time, like Chris Wallace, Susan Page, who have been kind of doing, you know, big moments and big stage for a while. And then you have kind of a newcomer in Kristen Welker. Steve Scully, obviously having been around, but also I think I like Steve being a moderator. He is certainly more of a news guy. So I think he's a good middle of the road moderator. The rest, we'll see. The good news is I think Donald Trump is going to do spectacular regardless of who the moderator is. I think he actually tends to do better in an interview that is harder. I think it's when he really rises to the moment, and I feel very comfortable about where he'll be with that group of moderators.
Sarah, in speaking for myself, you draw the distinction between Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity on one side, and on the other side, news journalists. Do you put Chris and Kristen in that category? Scully really is. It's hard to argue that Steve Scully's other than a news guy. He's the most straight-up guy in town. But what about the other two?
I think they both have certainly some leaning and some bias. It's probably a little hard not to after, you know, a guy like Chris Wallace, who's been doing it a long time, in the way that he does. And, you know, I have personal opinions on that matter. I think they both lean a little left of center, but hopefully they can be pretty neutral in this.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Los Angeles County has notified Grace Community Church that it will soon be evicted from a parcel of land that it uses as a parking lot. Why?
Yeah, it's sort of the final act strategy on their part to shut us down as a church. We did what everybody else did when COVID first came in. We didn't want people to die because of something we did, an insensitivity or anything like that. So when we heard there were going to be millions dying, we shut the church down. I went to an empty 3,000-seat auditorium, and we did live stream. After about 4 or 5 weeks, our people began to realize that the pandemic wasn't what they were told it was. Slowly, they just started coming back. We didn't make an announcement. We didn't say anything official.
So just organically, you emptied your church, went to televisual services, and then they started coming back?
They started coming back in the dozens and then the hundreds. And in a few weeks, there were 6,000, then there were 7,000. And
what is your average group of people worshiping?
Yes, it's about 7,000 on a normal Sunday. So we had them filling up the place. We put up a tent in the parking lot. They filled that. We have a chapel. They filled that. We have a gym. They filled that. People just kept pouring back, and they didn't buy the narrative. They absolutely didn't. And
then what happened? What happened with the authorities, Pastor MacArthur?
They sued us, and we went to court 4 times, and we won all 4 of those court hearings.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube.
An entire history text in one pop song, Billy Joel, and We Didn't Start the Fire. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Welcome, welcome. Phone number's the same, 1-8-Prager-776, and Dennis is back tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. I'm the happy morning host at 6:60 a.m. The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth, and it is an enormous joy to be in for Dennis whenever the bat phone rings, and along the entire platform of the Salem Radio Network, where I will be in for Larry Elder tomorrow. So I'll wrap up your week with everything that happens in the news between now and then. And every day is quite the list of things to shake a stick at. We spent some time in our first hour about the what would be a national holiday for many, the beginning of the NFL season, and I'm pretty close to out. If these teams pleasantly surprise me by finding a way to engage in social justice messaging without kneeling during the anthem, without defiling our flag and our anthem, then I'm in. I'll watch. I know the end zones are going to be festooned with anti-racist messages, and there may be Lord only knows what on jerseys and helmets and stuff, and whatever. I can agree or disagree with that. That won't drive me away. Jacking with the flag drives me away, and they don't care. And so you know what we're going to do? We're going to see if we can make them care by developing as much nonchalance, as much ambivalence, as much disinterest in the NFL as we have in the NBA and other pursuits that have seen fit to bring their personal political agendas into a realm that was special until now, until this day and age. Sports was the place that brought people together. Black, white, Christian, Jew, whatever religion, whatever color, whatever background, whatever socioeconomic stratum. Sports was a place where none of that mattered, and we can't even have that anymore. Well, if we can't have that, then I want no part of it. We've talked a little bit about that. Also, on this 19th anniversary of the day before 9/11, I know that's a tortured sentence, but I think a lot about September 10th. You know, we ask about where you were on September 11th, and many shows will ask that tomorrow. I know mine will. I'll probably ask that on Larry's show. Do you remember where you were 19 years ago today? Today, the last normal day before everything changed. I've asked two things that we can weave through today's topicality, because we're talking about the stupid Bob Woodward book and Trump tapes and all that nonsense. A number of other things in the news. Grab anything you like. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. Follow me on Twitter. Tweet me something. I'll take a look during the breaks at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. But there are two things I'm asking on this day before the 9/11 anniversary. Number one is, did we win the war on terror and nobody, sent us the memo? I mean, we're pulling all the troops, not all the troops. We're leaving a residual force, which is good, and which I always knew we would, because you never can tell when stuff may flare up. We were never going to get rid of jihad the way we got rid of Imperial Japan or got rid of Nazi Germany. It's there. It's going to be here in some murmuring fashion for the rest of our lives. But if it's just kind of a thing in the background that we stomp on when the need arises, and we don't have huge parts of the world, rising up to try to kill us and shooting planes out of the sky, beheading our citizens left, right, up, and down, isn't that what victory kind of looks like? Did we win? And I'll tell you something, we got an election on November 3rd. And there's President Trump talking about how I'm the guy to build back the economy after this COVID nightmare. I'm the guy to give you constitutionalist Supreme Court justices. I'm the guy to give you tough borders. How about I'm the guy who put the final chapter on winning the war on terror? Have I discovered something that Trump doesn't boast about enough? Seems improbable, doesn't it? So anyway, it is great that you are here. And the other thing that's 9/11 related, or 9/10 related, I should say today, and I feel terrible about this last guy, and Daniel somewhere in California, give me a buzz back, because he got like 10 seconds into the story. He's born in the Soviet Union, his parents were immigrants, and I remember waking up because I was X number of years old. It's like, gotta go. The clock is a cruel taskmaster in this business. If he wants to give us back, I'll move him right up to the front of the line, because here's what I'm interested in. My daughter was born in September of 1991. She was just September 28th. She was just shy of turning 10. And I've talked to her at times about this, and for her, and I think about my memories of when I was 10. I was 10 in 1967, turning into 66, 67, because I got a late birthday. I turned 10 in November of 1967. And I remember things in the news. I was a big space dork. So a few months earlier, I remember the fire that killed the first Apollo astronauts. And then in just the very, very few months to come, during the year that I was 10, you had Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy killed within weeks of each other. I totally remember that, but I don't remember them as an adult. I remember it through the lenses of what my mom and dad told me. I remember thinking, wow, the world's pretty screwed up, which you could sort of see someone thinking at the time. You could certainly see somebody thinking that now. Maybe 20 years from now, we'll say, hey, kids of 2020, because I think about that too. I have a high school senior. He's 17. And what will he think about when he's 35 looking back? What will any of us think when we look back at this crazy year of 2020? So anyway, not to lose focus, which I will do. Pardon me. The children of 9/11. If you are, I mean, I don't know if you're young enough that you scarcely remember it at all. I'd probably be particularly if you're 21, 22. Heck, if you're 19, 20, this is not anything you remember at all. So what does it mean to you now? If you are about 30, what does it mean to you now? Because you're like just knocking on the door of adolescence. What does it mean to you now? 1-8-Prager-776. 1-8-Prager-776. So you got a lot of things going on in the news, a lot of things happening, and let's roll to it. We are in Portland. Jim. Hi, Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing?
Well, doing well, Mark.
Hi.
There's all this obsession with coronavirus right now, and what got to me is at the time we got off to a slow start, I think, because there was an obsession with impeachment and removal, and I find that very frustrating. They try and put he had a right to defend his administration, did President Trump, and he was doing it, and now he's being faulted for doing that instead of being on top of coronavirus. And of course, the House Intelligence Committee wasn't focused on coronavirus.
No, exactly. It's a well phrased point. I don't think even President Trump, offers up as an excuse, hey, I was getting impeached. I couldn't pay attention to anything else. If there's anything the man seems able to do, it's multitask. And so he was absolutely fighting against impeachment. The better, and you made that argument at the end, is the Democrats weren't real embroiled in coronavirus protective measures and throwing us all this wisdom that they want to retroactively have us believe that they possessed. No, they were embroiled in impeachment. That's what they cared about. This entire, and Bob Woodward has become a political operative. He has been for a long time, but he's generally, if he wants to put out liberal books, if he wants to put out books that don't portray conservatives in a decent light, the First Amendment gives him the right to do that. But this weaponization of these stupid tapes, the stigmatization of what President Trump was saying back in the winter about a virus that had yet to unfold, a point in time during which Republicans and Democrats, scientists and non-scientists, were saying, I don't know what this thing's going to do. Do we need to wear masks? I don't know. Is it going to kill a bunch of people? I don't know. What kind of measures do we need to take? I don't know. Do we need to shut down everybody's lives? I don't know. It was the complete world of I don't know. And without context, to look at this through the accrued wisdom of September 10th and look back at 6-7 months of this virus in our lives and look at quotes from February and say, well, that is clearly duplicitous. It's clearly deceitful. This is something that he simply should have known, could have saved lives. Listen, there were all kinds of people running around screaming that the sky was falling. And a lot of people reacted accordingly. Some people overreacted at the time. President said he showed leadership by trying to fend off panic. And I think fending off panic, we were panicked enough, thank you. We didn't need more. 1-8-PRAGER 776. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. Back with more of you next.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I know the governor here in Arizona, Doug Ducey, has been very thankful of that to get that kind of authority to handle the response. Sounds like you might want a stronger federal, response to this.
Oh.
And do you trust the governors to handle what's best for their states?
Well, I hope we can trust the governors, but here's the deal. The federal government, there's a constitutional issue whether the federal government could issue such a mandate. I don't think constitutionally they could, so I wouldn't issue a mandate. But I plead with, I carry my mask with me everywhere I go. I'd set an example.
Did you heard that, right? Because he did say he would issue a mandate. Derek, do we have that clip from weeks ago? First thing I do, executive order, mask mandate. Now he's walking it back. You know why he's walking it back? Because he's terrified of losing. The Democrats see what a lot of people see is very well coming. The machine is doing everything it can, but in 55 days, you and I get to make the decision. It's not going to be the campaign of Trump or Biden. It's not going to be NBC. It's not going to be the Drudge Report. It's not going to be Fox News. It's not going to be any of us in talk radio. It's not going to be it's going to be the American people going to the polls and deciding who's going to win this thing. 800-655-MIKE. Incidentally, I'm looking at images on my monitors as the president leaving from Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base. The president off and running on the campaign trail. Joe Biden, 0 public events scheduled. Guy wants to be president, and on the day after Labor Day, can't leave the basement.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And we have had a number of presidents not see or not have the courage, more likely, to stand up to China and to pretend in a way that morality doesn't come into it. That if you're using slave labor, we don't care. Somebody else who used slave labor, we might as well profit off of it. I'm astounded that this president has had the courage to stand up to China.
I have watched this man and his statements over the years, so I was not surprised at all. And what surprised me is the degree to which he has fulfilled his promises. Standing up to China was one of the most courageous acts of, you have to go back, in my opinion, to Lincoln to find a president of his historic weight and gravitas and importance. I really believe he is that historic because he stopped cold the idea that a very simple economic principle, that it was not a zero-sum game. International trade, you could let the other trading partners take 0.4% off GDP every year, not a problem. And then suddenly people started looking around after this president said, free trade, it's costing us trillions. And he's right. And it did. And it would have continued until we were an abject debtor nation in perpetuity were it not for Donald Trump. And to stand up against China took great guts because China, as you know, is a formidable competitor. They're more than that. They are our enemy in a Cold War that is only intensifying.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Again, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, so you guys don't have to read those things or watch those things. But the big news for the last 3 days has been President Trump allegedly
Little Solomon Burke saying, cry to me. I offer you the exact same. It's like the November 4th talk show. If Biden wins, cry to me. I got a better idea. Celebrate with me. Celebrate with Dennis. Everybody here on the Salem Radio Network, because doggone it, he's going to win. We're going to see to it by the force of our will. And I've got a kind of a hashtag going in. Why don't you join me in doing this? It's enormous fun. You can do it every day. If you're in the Twitter world, the hashtag is MyTrumpVote. And what it means is every time somebody says something really stupid or derisive or insulting toward conservatism or you or me or Trump or whatever, it's like hashtag MyTrumpVote is a rebuke against nonsense like this. Every time some stupid article comes out, every time, and today, a wonderful one in the midst of this Bob Woodward, gotcha tape. My Trump vote is the back of my hand against media-fueled nonsense like this. So if you go to Twitter now and hit hashtag My Trump vote, you might find some other people, but you'll find a whole lot of me and the moments at which I've said, you know what? My Trump vote is not, obviously my Trump vote means I want 4 more years of him. I want 4 more years of strong borders, 4 more years of constitutionalist justices, 4 more years of pretty well everything that he's brought. That's self-evident. But my Trump vote is also a statement to a corrupt media culture. My Trump vote is also a statement to people who kneel during the national anthem. My Trump vote is a statement against those who had set fire to our cities. It's 1,000 different things. What does your Trump vote mean when you get ready to cast it on November 3rd? Hashtag My Trump Vote. Try it. I offer it to you free of charge. All right. And speaking of ask what you will and it shall be done, felt really bad. We got into this call and I bogged him down with a bunch of interesting questions because the gentleman said that he was like born in the USSR and was 30 something. So he's like just an adolescent at the time of 9/11. We totally ran out of time. And I said, if you want to come back, sir, we'll be glad to pick up from there. And he has. We are in Walnut Creek, California, and Daniel is back. Daniel, thank you. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Davis.
Listen, so let's dive in. So your parent, you had immigrant parents, I guess. So pick it. How old were you for 9/11, and what's your memory of it?
So I'm an immigrant with them. So me and my family, with my grandparents, we all came here in '93, and the memory is just. I obviously didn't know what else was going on in the world around that time, but there's something that struck a chord, and I understood that this is something big. This is something beyond me at the time. And, I understood that we all had a love for this country, even though we were immigrants, and we were citizens already at that time. And I understood that there was something going wrong here. And it was crazy to see. It was just unbelievable. It was a shell shocker. And this is me in 6th grade. And after that, there was a choice. Obviously a lot of schools would have closed down. I think our school, I don't remember if the school said, you can come in, but it's going to be a half day, or once we were there that, they said, if you want, you can go home or you can stay. Regardless, I went into school, and the school was wise enough. The teachers were wonderful enough to just sit us all down and to have a kind of a conversation with us of, what is going on? What does all this mean? But it was just this thing where I'm 6 years old. I wasn't born in this country, but there is a part of me like I suffered with them. This is a tragedy. And growing up with this, we were all in this together. We were all Americans. We all suffered through this, everything through 9/11, everything through the emergency responders. This brought us together because this was us. This was our country. And, we all suffered sort of the consequences and the repercussions of what came to be in terms of the restrictions on our lives and everything else. So, a time like that, reflecting on it, ended up bringing us together. And I feel like right now there's just this big fissure. There's people kept chiseling and chiseling and chiseling like, one big rock. And now that fissure is now cracking and tearing us apart. And it's the lack of understanding of who we are together as a nation and, where's the unity? And so I just needed to call in kind of, not to share the story for my sake, I know my story, but give kind of people an understanding of what was it like for myself and my family and then how it is for me.
I am so grateful I am so grateful, Deb. Thank you for calling back. And boy, one clock hiccup prevents us from finishing your point, and you returned, and it was eloquent. And thank you very, very much. So here's a 30-ish guy. And it's funny. I think was it just right now or a couple of minutes ago? He said, we were immigrants, but we loved the country even though we were immigrants. Young man, let me tell you, there are many who immigrate to this country who love the country more than some people I could name who were born here. So, and in fact, if you are born here, it's just happy accident, or as I choose to, the way I look at things, God's will. So I'm grateful for everything in my life, even the things over which I've had zero control. The parents I had, being a native, being an American, being a native Texan, all of those things. But I didn't do any of those things by intent. They're simply gifts that I have received by happenstance or by God's will. And the people who, this is probably worth saying at a time when there's so much discussion about immigration and a lot of angst about illegal immigration, which there should be. Illegal immigration is a massive problem. But even with all the immigration views that I hold, one of the most meaningful things I did was about 15 years ago in Plano, Texas, just outside Dallas, in a big convention hall. And I got to be master of ceremonies for and sort of guest speaker for a naturalization ceremony. And about 1,000 people from about 100 countries that day all became just as American as I am. What a joy it was to spend time with them. What an honor it was to welcome them into a status that I was born into just because I was born, to American parents on American soil. They had to go through the process, jump through the hoops, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, all of those things. And being Texas, we're a whole bunch of them from Mexico. Oh, yeah. But there are folks from Lithuania and Uruguay and South Africa and Russia and Norway and just every continent. And it was sobering and humbling and wonderful. And so for that particular gentleman was of great value. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see here. Going to be out in about 30 seconds. So let's do this. What are we doing if you're just joining the show? Talking about stuff in the news today, talking about things going on in the election, the campaign, how you think that's going. Take a look on this pre-9/11 on this September 10th anniversary. I'm asking two things. If you are of a certain age, if you were between like 5 and 15 on 9/11, meaning you're, roughly, 24 to 34 now, what does it mean to you? What is it like in your fuzzy memory? And the other thing, and maybe the larger question for all of us, is: did we kind of win the war on terror? Shall we conclude that? Not to dust our hands off and say we're done, no need to pay attention to it. Just asking. Mark Davison for Dennis Prager.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Again, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, so you guys don't have to read those things or watch those things. But the big news for the last 3 days has been President Trump allegedly disparaged military fallen. And this has been something that they have been hyping on and pounding on and pounding on. Will it cut into President Trump's military support? How is this going to play in the suburbs? Donald Trump has had a history of disparaging people, so it seems consistent with character, yada, blah, etc. Now, I've told you a million times that if they wanted to be fair and balanced, the media could easily be focused on entirely different stories that one could make a case are at least as important, if not more important. This story was based upon 4 unnamed sources. It turns out Atlantic, the largest owner of Atlantic, is a big Joe Biden donor, contributed 7 figures, meets regularly with the reporter who did the story. I'm not saying that means the story is false. I'm just saying it suggests that maybe, just maybe, that should have been brought up. Tell me something. Which do you think is a bigger story? that Joe Biden said to Charlemagne the God, if you don't know whether or not you want me or Trump by now, you ain't really black. Which one offended more people? Donald Trump's alleged remarks about fallen soldiers, which he denies, and John Bolton, who does not like him, who was there, also denies, or Joe Biden publicly saying, you ain't really black if you don't support me. Which one is more offensive? How much time did CNN, MSNBC spend on that versus how much time they're spending on this?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Well, your channel, Mr. Reagan, is producing amazing content that is just destroying the culture of political correctness and propaganda out there, starting off with that viral video of who's behind AOC. Before we get to your latest videos, Chris, tell us about why you chose to be Mr. Reagan on YouTube and social media.
Well, that's essentially why. I mean, my love for Ronald Reagan. I needed a nom de plume. I needed some kind of. The reason is because I work here in Los Angeles. Or I used to work in Los Angeles. I used to work acting.
As an actor.
Yeah, I used to do other things as well, but a lot of acting. And you won't work in Hollywood if anyone. I mean, I know some big names who are absolutely in the closet conservatives here in Los Angeles. I'm not allowed to mention who they are. I'm not allowed to talk about them. Some of them you'll know their names, some of them you won't, but they are very important people in Hollywood. You cannot talk about your political beliefs if you're a conservative in Hollywood. You will get blacklisted. You won't get work.
But it doesn't take much to work out who Mr. Reagan is. So in the couple of minutes we have now, before we get to your latest movies and films in the next segment, tell us, what has been the consequence for you talking out against the insanity that is today's culture war? What's happened to Chris Coles?
Well, I'll tell you what. I wasn't 100% sure, but I had a pretty good idea that the show would take off based on what I was trying to do with the show and the stuff that I thought I had to offer. What I wasn't expecting was the utterly loving and positive response I would get.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
We have been scared crapless by the media coverage of COVID-19. Every night on the news, here's the latest person who is dying or died from COVID. Every day, there's more scare tactics.
Dennis's show is done, and then you get Dr. Gorka and the shows that unfold afterward on the Salem Radio Network. Then I'm back for you, and that'll be my fill-in for Larry Elder tomorrow afternoon/evening, depending upon where you live and when you listen. Much appreciated. Mark Davis. Follow me on Twitter @Mark Davis. And as we get ready to dive back to your calls on a variety of subjects, coronavirus has made financial markets unpredictable, you think, and it has not been a smooth ride for mortgage rates either, and that's why I'm glad to send you to Andrew and Todd. Andrew and Todd here to help you manage market volatility, help you get into a better financial situation. A lot of major banks and lenders are kind of pushing back on loans, suspending some refi applications. Not Andrew and Todd. They are full steam ahead. They're at Sierra Pacific Mortgage, clocked in, working remotely, ready to help you out with whatever your situation may be. The decline in rates is fueling a boom in refinancing. So if you're considering a refi, a new purchase, a cash-out refi, reverse mortgage, they know all of these things. AndrewandTodd.com. Andrew and Todd with 2 Ds. AndrewandTodd.com. Let them get on it for you. And they've got a phone number too, 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172 or AndrewandTodd.com. Alrighty, Mark Davis in for Dennis as we get ready to head back to your calls. Let us go to Greenwood, South Carolina. Hey, John. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Good Thursday to you. How are you?
Mark, it's always an honor, privilege, pleasure, and joy to talk to you.
All four. Thank you.
Sadly, one of the last times I talked to you, I predicted that South Carolina would re-energize Joe Biden and get him the nomination, and I hate to have been correct on that.
But that's okay. You guys will. The South Carolina will make it right on November 3rd. It'll all the Republicans will have their say.
Indeed, what I'm hoping. And this call goes along those same lines. I want to make sure that mail-in voting, other than legitimate absentee balloting, gets the quietus and the kibosh put on it, and that it simply doesn't happen anywhere. I would very much like to see a federal law of some sort take place, and I know that can't happen this quickly, but I would very much love to see there to be a law to actually outlaw, quote unquote, sending out just masses of ballots. But what I was going to suggest is this: we've had drive-in coronavirus testing, drive-in banking, drive-in this, drive-in that. Why can't we have drive-in voting?
All right. Let me give you 60 seconds on that, and then let me give it right, because first of all, the concern about blanketing an entire population with ballots is ballot security, ballot reliability. Somebody filling out 1 or 2 or 15 ballots and voting that many times. Is there a way to have a location where you drive up with your? I would think it would have to be an already completed ballot, because I think we would just be in line for 47 hours if everybody drove up and go, well, let's see, who am I going to vote for? So with an already completed ballot where you drive up and someone securely identifies who you are, records that your vote was made in the voter registration books so that you can't turn around, go to the back of the line and vote again, I think it's a more than worthy idea.
I'd really like to see it investigated. I would also be concerned about drive-up security as to what you could have in the vehicle. In other words, mass shooting potential, that sort of thing. So that would be addressed.
Jeez, I guess you got to worry about that.
Well, you have to think about things like that.
No, I don't.
And my understanding is that the left at this point is really thinking in terms. In some of their circles, they're talking civil war and preparing for civil war.
Well, especially if Trump loses, they're certainly going to. If Trump wins, excuse me, if President Trump wins, there'll be a lot of people taking to the streets. I will be in a celebratory fashion, and I will perhaps be met there by people rioting for the next 2 weeks. And the first thing freshly reelected Donald Trump may have to do is deploy and I do not, I pray this doesn't happen. I'm not predicting it necessarily, but the way these folks are acting now, you remember what they did when Hillary lost. Most of them were just inconsolable. They cried, they howled at the moon. It was quite the spectacle. The spectacle may be somewhat different now. It may be substantially worse. And the first thing freshly elected President Trump may have to do is deploy the National Guard as broadly as it has been, maybe ever, in order to quell the rioting as a result of his win. That too will pass. As for, let me put I would only need the drive-in voting thing for COVID purposes, because your favorite thing is to get into your polling place and vote right there, walk in, vote, walk out. There's no equal to that. So, what do you think about the drive-in possibility there? Mark Davis in for Dennis. Stick around. More of you are next.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide school choice, teach American exceptionalism unapologetically, defend the police as an institution, oppose human trafficking. These and other measures offer sanity, flourishing, and hope to an embattled country. No agenda can cover every issue. Two outstanding issues need platforming, however: religious liberty and abortion. The Trump administration has taken stands on both of these momentous matters, and to good effect. In days ahead, though, supporters of religious liberty and the unerasable humanity of the unborn need more support, not less. Religious liberty, after all, is for this gloriously free society the first freedom. Among other righteous ends, it enables a diverse coalition of many voices to speak on behalf of the unborn, until the murderous abomination of abortion is a distant memory. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden saying during an event at Grace Lutheran Church in Wisconsin, quote, "A black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison," close quote. You feel that guilty that Thomas Edison now, he needs to be taken down a few notches? Thomas Edison now needs to be canceled? Nobody's mad at Joe Biden for making this false statement? But you let Donald Trump pass along some statement that somebody else made. Oh, my goodness, Donald Trump peddling conspiracy theories. Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record. When I was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, I would go to black churches and we'd sit down and talk about how we're going to organize to desegregate lunch counters and movie theaters in Wilmington, Delaware. No evidence whatsoever that he did that. And don't go by me, go by New York Times. You know, New York Times, paper of record. The one that hasn't endorsed a Republican since 1956, that paper. Lied for decades. Lied and said the NAACP has endorsed me every single race. NAACP puts out a statement, actually, we've never endorsed you at all because we're a 501c3. We can't do that. Well, you know, I got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela when he's in prison under apartheid South Africa. I was with Andy Young. Andy Young says, "You kidding me? No, I didn't get arrested, and then neither did Joe Biden." By the way, Joe Biden says he was in the streets of Soweto when he got arrested. That's 900 miles away from where Nelson Mandela was housed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
What do you make of the four debate moderators? We've got Chris Wallace, Steve Scully, Kristen Welker, and Susan Page for the vice presidents. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting mix of people. Certainly, I think you've got some people, you know, seasoned journalists who have been around a long time, like Chris Wallace, Susan Page, who have been kind of doing, you know, big moments and big stage for a while. And then you have kind of a newcomer in Kristen Welker. Steve Scully, obviously, having been around. But also, I think I like Steve being a moderator. He is certainly more of a news guy. So I think he's a good middle-of-the-road moderator. The rest, we'll see. The good news is I think Donald Trump is going to do spectacular regardless of who the moderator is. I think he actually tends to do better in an interview that is harder. I think it's when he really rises to the moment, and I feel very comfortable about where he'll be with that group of moderators.
Sarah, in speaking for myself, you draw the distinction between Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity on one side.
It's the Dennis Prager Show for a Thursday. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Dennis is back tomorrow to wrap up your week. It is the 10th of September, and that is some of what we're talking about. The 19th anniversary of the last normal day. Now, obviously, we're not together tomorrow, but I am doing the Larry Elder Show tomorrow if you want to pick up from here, because I'll probably take it in a sort of a natural progression and probably ask a little more of the other question I've asked today, and that is, did we kind of win the war on terror and they didn't put out a memo? I mean, I've always known there was not going to be a USS Missouri signing ceremony or a big old parade like we had for VE Day, VJ Day. There would be no VT Day to correspond. But it's interesting. I mean, what I remember, I mean, I've done talk shows for a long time, and I remember defining, and if somebody had called me in 2005, 2010, 2013, and had said, what will it look like when we've won? My answer has been consistent. It is that we're never going to do away with terrorism. We're never going to do away with jihadis completely. There'll always be a murmuring population of people who want to kill us where we stand. But if they're not in the news every day, and if they're not a daily security concern, if they're not bombing our embassies, if we're not having more Benghazis and more 9/11s and more beheadings, and if we're able to slowly draw down the troops, that's kind of what victory looks like. And that's kind of where we are, isn't it? And it's maybe we're hesitant to quote unquote declare victory because that suggests, we're done. Nothing to worry about anymore. There wasn't going to be any more Pearl Harbors after VJ Day, right? Hitler was not going to roll through Europe after he was dead at the end of our victory in Europe. But maybe there's hesitancy to say, well, we've won the war on terror, so now we don't have to worry about the threat of jihad anymore. Well, obviously, we will need to worry about that for the rest of our lives because it ain't going away. We have it at bay for now. Could it rear its head again? Yes. Do I pray that we're more vigilant about it now than we've been in the past? Yes. But, I don't know. Questions abound. And we're talking about that and how ready to boycott the whole shooting match everybody is now that the NFL is starting its season. And I feel terrible about that. Chiefs-Texans, that's a great game. It's a great playoff game last year. I love the Chiefs' victory in the Super Bowl. But if these young men see fit to dishonor my country tonight as I'm catching it on NBC, which I'll tune in, see what happens. One knee hits the ground. I just developed some family time. I just developed an opportunity to stream a movie with my wife. I just developed the ability to read a book or play with the dogs or take a walk or who knows what, because the NFL is going to give me a lot of free time this year, I fear. So we will see. I've also asked about people who were kids during 9/11. Because I'm 62. I remember, 9/11 from being 43. But let's do this. Let's go to Henderson, South Carolina, because Clayton, if you are 27, it means you were like 8, if I'm doing the difficult math. It's very nice to have you. Mark Davison for Dennis. How you doing? Hey, Clayton. I'm sorry. I might have made a mistake. Hang on one second. Operator error. Let's do this. And oh, doggone it, dudes. Do me a favor, Sean, because I have lost control of everything I'm doing here. That was 2. And Clayton, have I got you? Hi, Clayton. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, Mark?
Fantastic. Thank you.
I was just going to say, for me, I was 8. I remember, I guess I was in 3rd grade. I remember it happening in class, and, they kind of shut the school down. They turned it on TV, and we watched it happen.
Yep.
But for me, it everything kind of changed as far as childhood went from there. I remember it used to be, the focus was always on, go outside and play. I lived out in the country, and after that, it was parents were always worried. It seems like we became aware of all these evils in the world that we weren't aware of. At least for me, maybe it's just kids.
No, you got a good point. While all the grown-ups were thinking, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to go to war? Are there going to be other 9/11s? This was what the years 02, 03, 04, 05 were like, and that for you was what it was like to be 9, 10, 11, 12 years old.
Exactly. But maybe you can educate me on this if I'm wrong, but I think probably one of the biggest impacts on my life that it's had, I believe that's right. That's when 24/7 media kind of came around. Am I correct on that?
Now, you know what? It's funny. Not so much. I mean, CNN had already been around for decades. CNN was around for all of the 80s, all of the 90s, but this was the first, just as the Kennedy assassination was the first experience that television in any form had of covering something 24/7. 9/11 was our first opportunity, and I don't know, there have been big stories, but it was where everybody was just glued to TVs, daytime, nighttime, 24-hour cycles for days. So it was the first opportunity for all of the networks to actually cover some news, and most of them did I'll never forget Aaron Brown, back when CNN was respectable, did an unbelievable job. Actually, maybe the Gulf War, 10 years earlier, was an opportunity where we all gathered around the 24/7 news cycles. Yeah, and it's which, just to make that list, shows you that if we're gathered around the TV day in, day out, for hours on end, daytime, that's probably because something terrible has happened. So anyway, let's wish against that perhaps, and hope that all of our news networks are there prattling or covering things or whatever they're doing, just in something resembling a normal course of events. We are in Newberry, South Carolina. Hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, sir. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Well, with all due respect to a relative that died that day, if I'm up against a break, if you don't mind, maybe just hold into after, because I'd like to.
I got about 2 minutes. Use them well. Go.
Here we go. Well, as far as the terrorist war, I think underneath President Trump, I'm not sure we won it, but we're certainly, been better than we've ever been under Trump. As far as that day on 9/11, it started a little emotional for me. But, it's 27 years old, and we worked a maintenance job. We heard about something going on, so we went to the clubhouse, turned on the TV, saw the first tower, was in shock. A second tower, not too shortly after that.
I know.
I got a call from my mom crying, and she's like, Mark, I think David Angel, which is her first cousin,
cousins of yours,
were on the first tower.
I cannot imagine. Because I knew people, but only as acquaintances. We'll talk about it in a moment.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide school choice, teach American exceptionalism unapologetically, defend the police as an institution, oppose human trafficking. These and other measures offer sanity, flourishing, and hope to an embattled country. No agenda can cover every issue. Two outstanding issues need platforming, however: religious liberty and abortion. The Trump administration has taken stands on both of these momentous matters and to good effect. In days ahead, though, supporters of religious liberty and the unerasable humanity of the unborn need more support, not less. Religious liberty, after all, is for this gloriously free society the first freedom. Among other righteous ends, it enables a diverse coalition of many voices to speak on behalf of the unborn, until the murderous abomination of abortion is a distant memory. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden saying during an event at Grace Lutheran Church in Wisconsin, quote, "A black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison," close quote. You feel that guilty? That Thomas Edison now, he needs to be taken down a few notches? Thomas Edison now needs to be canceled? Nobody's mad at Joe Biden for making this false statement? But you let Donald Trump pass along some statement that somebody else may, oh my goodness, Donald Trump peddling conspiracy theories. Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record. When I was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, I would go to black churches and we'd sit down and talk about how we're going to move, organize to desegregate lunch counters and movie theaters in Wilmington, Delaware. No evidence whatsoever that he did that. And don't go by me, go by New York Times. You know, New York Times, paper of record. The one that hasn't endorsed a Republican since 1956, that paper. Lied for decades. Lied and said the NAACP has endorsed me every single race. NAACP puts out a statement, actually, we've never endorsed you at all because we're a 501c3. We can't do that. Well, you know, I got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela when he's in prison under apartheid South Africa. I was with Andy Young. Andy Young says, you kidding me? No, I didn't get arrested, and neither did Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden says he was in the streets of Soweto when he got arrested. That's 900 miles away from where Nelson Mandela was housed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
That you can do. Appreciate y'all a lot. And no, I cannot see you back through the screen. So maybe this guy over there. I don't know. Welcome, everybody. Mark Davis in for Dennis. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. Let us roll to some calls, wrap up this hour, and take everything into the next. Our 9/10 recollections, if you will, on this day before 9/11, the last normal day. The kids of 9/11, if you're like, 25 to 35 now, you were from somewhere from first grade to high school or something, and just take a look at what the day means to you. And of course, all the news of the day, campaign stories of the day, etc., etc. We are in Ohio. Hey, John, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, Mark. I so much appreciate your thoughtful and meaningful prayers at the beginning of the show.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
And your common sense conservative voice.
Thanks.
A quick mention about Ted Cruz and why he should not be named to the Supreme Court, in addition to what you said. Now, President Trump is going to be reelected, and when he's termed out 4 years from now, Ted, in my humble opinion, is at the top of the list to be a Republican candidate.
That is a spectacular point. If we get Ted Cruz on the Supreme Court, and if for those who are listening, said, "What? I thought Mark was a friend of Ted. I thought he liked Ted." It's because I love him so much that I want one of the other couple of dozen people on the court while Ted stays right where he is in the Senate, able to fight as he has, and maybe be the 46th president of the United States.
Absolutely. Now to my main point. Back to the politicalization of the NFL. If what I heard on air is true, you aren't going to have to wait for players to kneel to turn off your TV, because instead of team names being on the end zone, AFL, NFL, and that kind of thing, they're going to have things like Black Lives Matter and
end racism. It takes all of us. I got to tell you, if they leave my anthem alone, I'm taking the win. I really am. I'm taking the win if they leave my anthem alone, John. There may be all kinds of other things, other gestures, other things I can either like or not like. My only line in the sand right now is leave my anthem alone. Thank you for your kind words. And listen, in a perfect world, and in fact, what have I got? 30 seconds. Here's why even what some of John talks about is a problem. Why is a problem just to have, Black Lives Matter in the end zone? That's what you put in a racist country. End racism. That's what you tell a racist country. And we're not. We're simply not. This level of scolding and finger wagging and indoctrination is simply not what the country needs. It's not appropriate. Can we end all these side shows and dog and pony shows in kabuki theater and get down to the real hard work of police reform and other things that we really need to do? How about that? That's not as sexy, is it? Mark Davison for Dennis. Be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Los Angeles County has notified Grace Community Church that it will soon be evicted from a parcel of land that it uses as a parking lot. Why?
Yeah, it's sort of the final act strategy on their part to shut us down as a church. We did what everybody else did when COVID first came in. We didn't want people to die because of something we did, an insensitivity or anything like that. So when we heard there were going to be millions dying, we shut the church down. I went to an empty 3,000-seat auditorium, and we did live stream. After about 4 or 5 weeks, our people began to realize that the pandemic wasn't what they were told it was. Slowly, they just started coming back. We didn't make an announcement. We didn't say anything official.
So just organically, you emptied your church, went to televisual services, and then they started coming back?
They started coming back in the dozens and then the hundreds. And in a few weeks, there were 6,000, then there were 7,000. And
what is your average group of people worshiping?
Yes, it's about 7,000 on a normal Sunday. So we had them filling up the place. We put up a tent in the parking lot. They filled that. We have a chapel, they filled that. We have a gym, they filled that. People just kept pouring back, and they didn't buy the narrative. They absolutely didn't. And
then what happened? What happened with the authorities, Pastor MacArthur?
They sued us, and we went to court 4 times, and we won all 4 of those court hearings.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I know the governor here in Arizona, Doug Ducey, has been very thankful of that to get that kind of authority to handle the response. Sounds like you might want a stronger federal, response to this. And do you trust the governors to handle what's best for their states?
Well, I hope we can trust the governors, but here's the deal. The federal government, there's a constitutional issue whether the federal government could issue such a mandate. I don't think constitutionally they could, so I wouldn't issue a mandate. But I'd plead with. I carried my mask with me everywhere I go. I'd set an example.
Did you heard that, right? Because he did say he would issue a mandate. Derek, do we have that clip from weeks ago? First thing I do, executive order, mask mandate. Now he's walking it back. You know why he's walking it back? Because he's terrified of losing. The Democrats see what a lot of people see is very well coming. The machine is doing everything it can, but in 55 days, you and I get to make the decision. It's not going to be the campaign of Trump or Biden. It's not going to be NBC. It's not going to be the Drudge Report. It's not going to be Fox News. It's not going to be any of us in talk radio. It's not going to be it's going to be the American people going to the polls and deciding who's going to win this thing. 800-655-MIKE. Incidentally, I'm looking at images on my monitors as the president leaving from Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base. The president off and running on the campaign trail. Joe Biden, 0 public events scheduled. Guy wants to be president, and on the day after Labor Day, can't leave the basement.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And we have had a number of presidents not see or not have the courage, more likely, to stand up to China and to pretend in a way that morality doesn't come into it. That if you're using slave labor, we don't care. Somebody else who used slave labor, we might as well profit off of it. I'm astounded that this president has had the courage to stand up to China.
I have watched this man and his statements over the years, so I was not surprised at all. And what surprised me is the degree to which he has fulfilled his promises. Standing up to China was one of the most courageous acts you have to go back, in my opinion, to Lincoln to find a president of his historic weight and gravitas and importance. I really believe he is that historic. Because he stopped cold the idea that a very simple economic principle, that it was not a zero-sum game. International trade, you could let the other trading partners take 0.4% off GDP every year, not a problem. And then suddenly people started looking around after this president said, free trade, it's costing us trillions. And he's right. And it did. And it would have continued until we were an abject debtor nation in perpetuity were it not for Donald Trump. And to stand up against China took great guts, because China, as you know, is a formidable competitor. They're more than that. They are our enemy in a Cold War that is only intensifying.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Again, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, Hee-Haw, New York Times, Washington Post, so you guys don't have to read those things or watch those things. But the big news for the last 3 days has been President Trump allegedly disparaged military fallen. And this has been something that they have been hyping on and pounding on and pounding on. Will it cut into President Trump's military support? How is this going to play in the suburbs? Donald Trump has had a history of disparaging people, so it seems consistent with character, yada, blah, etc. Now, I've told you a million times that if they wanted to be fair and balanced, the media could easily be focused on entirely different stories that one could make a case are at least as important, if not more important. This story was based upon 4 unnamed sources. It turns out Atlantic, the largest owner of Atlantic, is a big Joe Biden donor, contributed 7 figures, meets regularly with the reporter who did the story. I'm not saying that means the story is false. I'm just saying it
Never mind, don't worry about it. I'm presuming so.
Maybe that should have been brought up.
I'll just let this roll for the next 3-4 minutes. The great Ray Charles. Oh, goodness gracious me. That notion of love of country. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Hey, everybody. Hope all's well. The Happy Morning host at 660 a.m. The Answer, Dallas, Fort Worth, going right back to your calls on a number of things. But I'll tell you, that decision by Sean to roll out with a little Ray Charles and a little America the Beautiful gives me a thought about love of country and why that, too, is under attack. But first of all, phone number is 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Davis. Appreciate all of y'all being here. And Dennis is back tomorrow. If you're just joining us, we've talked a little bit about tomorrow's 9/11 anniversary. Today is the 19th anniversary of 9/10, the last normal day. And we've talked about the odd and sort of jarring juxtaposition of Monday, September 11th, 2001 versus Tuesday, the morning when we woke up and everything changed. And I've taken interesting note and gotten a bunch of wonderful calls, by the way, from people who are kids. Folks who are just kiddos. You know, you're 9 for 9/11. You know, and now you're 28. Maybe you're just a mush-brained teenager. And now you're a mush-brained 38-year-old. or hopefully not. Or maybe you're sharp as a whip teenager. It's been a very, very interesting exercise. And the other thing that I wanted to ask sort of broadly is, did we win the war on terror and nobody noticed? What was victory supposed to look like? Isn't this kind of it? They're no longer beheading us. It's no longer in the news every day. It hardly is at all. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, what even are those anymore? And I don't mean to be dismissive about that, because they are still around. But they've been cowed into submission. They've been driven into their caves. Isn't that kind of what victory was supposed to look like? And unlike VJ Day, VE Day, where Nazi Germany is gone and not to return, Imperial Japan gone and not to return in that form, terrorism, jihadism, the jihadi threat will never be gone, ever. But it's just kind of on a slow simmer, and if something arises, we stomp it down. Or I pray that we have the will to, because we are not a warlike people. And by the way, that is why we were not able to achieve the kind of victory that maybe people thought we were going to achieve within a pretty short order, 4 years, like we did in World War II. And the reason we didn't, here's a little truth of life, a truth of war. There's only one way to win a war. Only one way. And that is to kill enough of the enemy that they decide to stop fighting you. Now, you can do that in short order, as in Gulf War I. Pretty short order, as in World War II. It took a long time. World War I. We didn't do it in Vietnam. That's why we lost. We did in the Revolutionary War that created this country. We killed enough of the British, they decided to stop fighting us. That's the only way to win a war. Now, did we do that in textbook fashion here? Have we killed enough? One could argue they got bored. And I don't say that to be flippant either. But something as definitive as the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that makes clear we mean business. In this war on terror, we've made clear that we mean business by pumping all kinds of blood and treasure into that part of the world for the better part of a generation. And I guess they figured we weren't going away, so I guess the caliphate was not going to spread by the sword, at least not under Trump's watch. And so my question to you is, have we won, in air quotes, the war on terror? All right, multi-topic day, and I always appreciate that. It's always a joy to be here for Dennis. Let us roll to Fairplay, South Carolina. Ed, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. Happy Thursday. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for taking my call, Mark.
Sure.
My primary reason for calling today was my wife noticed at our local post office about 4 months ago or so, they don't fly the flag anymore.
Do what?
So my wife and they don't fly the flag. The flagpole is empty. And here's what happened. My wife went in and asked them, what's the problem?
Good.
And they said, well, the rope is broke. Okay, so in the process of the last 4 months, my wife continuously goes in and asks the postmaster, where's my flag? So she went in today. Okay, we didn't have a flag for Labor Day. Okay, we didn't have a flag for the other holidays. And so anyhow, he told her, he said, well, we just don't have time. You know, and I was going to call the postmaster, but
you should.
He was busy out to lunch. Okay.
Yeah, well, here's where two things kick in, and I appreciate the story because that's absolutely ridiculous that should happen, and that is politeness and persistence. That is absolutely private businesses can fly the flag or not anytime they wish. You can't put it at half staff anytime you wish. If you're going to have a flag, observe flag etiquette. More on that at some other juncture. But if you have a United States Post Office, it's got to have a flag. That's the rule. It's the rule book, and anybody that's not seeing to it that the rule is followed is a problem. And so you've got to become a problem for them. Not by firebombing the building or scrawling things on the brick wall on the side, but by being a thorn in their side that will not go away until that flag of this great country is flying outside that post office every morning. So that's what I mean by politeness and persistence. The polite part means you're smiling, you're pleasant, you're upbeat, you're not mean, you're not abusive, but the persistence means you will not go away. You'll be there every day, or somebody will. Every day. Excuse me, Mr. Post Office Manager man, where's the flag? I'm sorry, is there the rope broke? I'll help you fix it. I'll get somebody to help fix it. You don't have one? I'll buy you one. Whatever you've got to do. No excuses. No excuses. All righty. We are back on the phones. 1-8-Prager-776. We're in Indian Head, Illinois. Rich. Hey, Mark Davis, welcome.
Hey,
How
Mark,
are you? In for Dennis. Nice to have you.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call, and I want to thank you for being so honest on with your opinion on all the topics that we're talking about today.
You're very kind. It helps the career out a lot. Thanks.
Hey, what I would like to ask is, last time you filled in for Dennis, I talked to you about this so-called Black Anthem, and you said in your opinion that it would never happen.
No, it's not.
Listening to the TV today, it's going to happen.
Where?
And my question to you is...
where? I have a question for you. But first of all, the reference is to an actually pretty wonderful song called Lift Every Voice and Sing. And there is no such thing as the Black National Anthem. Some people have kind of called it that. Where have you heard that this will happen?
This was on the local channel on ABC. They said that tonight when they run the first game on NBC,
the Chiefs and the Titans,
that would be part of the.
You know what? I'll tell you what. If they do that and leave the national anthem alone, I'm totally good with it. There are 1,000 things that somebody might do. A kneeling moment before the anthem, lift every voice and sing, and then the national anthem, certainly not instead of. Whatever anybody wants to do to sort of get their social justice yah-yahs out, knock yourself out, as long as the national anthem is left alone.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but the question I have for you, do you think if they play this so-called anthem and they stand for that and then kneel for the national anthem, what the sport fans all over the country are going to react to?
Many will do what I have done, and that is turn the TV off. I will turn the damn TV off, never to return. By the way, the whatever honor and respect they want to show to lift every voice and sing, I got no problem with that. It's a lovely song. It's a great song. National Anthem's a great song, too, that has a singular meaning. It is our nation's only anthem. There is no black national anthem. There is no Hispanic national anthem. There is no Eskimo national anthem. We have a national anthem. It unifies. It's for all of us. And therein lies the problem. And that takes me right back to the Ray Charles song that started us off there. His version was a wonderful version of America the Beautiful. Love of country must be fought for. You're not forced to love the country. You're not. You can feel however you like about the country. First Amendment even enables you to spout off about the country and the things you don't like. It's part of what makes us great. But as we gather for the anthem, which is a communal time of respect, if you don't like the country very much, can you just sort of stand there and silently seethe? Sure, knock yourself out. But do you get to kneel? Do you get to engage in various other gestures that are designed to distract from the communal appreciation of country and attract attention to you and your agenda? That is always wrong. Always going to be wrong, no matter the issue. No matter the issue. Mark Davison for Dennis, and we'll be right back.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
We have been scared crapless by the media coverage of COVID-19. Every night on the news, here's the latest person who is dying or died from COVID. Every day, there's more scare tactics by a media that, legitimately covers bad news. That's not new for us. We ought to accept that. That's what they do. They're not going to cover the 95% of people who handle COVID with very minimal problems. They're not going to cover that. That's not a good story for them. The heartbreaking story of a father or a mother or a daughter or a son, anybody, that's a big story to the media. Not Eric Hansen and his wife Gina and their entire family that all got exposed, got the virus, had a cold, had flu symptoms for a couple of days, and now feel like $1 million. That's not much. That's not going to be on the NBC Nightly News. So sure, you see the crowd in Winston-Salem and you say, oh my gosh, look at how close together those people are. Is there going to be a super spreader event? I don't know. Was there a super spreader event in Tulsa at the president's rally? We didn't hear of any. People who claim that the great Herman Cain contracted the virus at the Tulsa rally and died from it have no idea that he got it in Tulsa. He did a whole bunch of events over the span of those few weeks. Short on facts here.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
How do you tell people going into public life how to handle their children when they're going to have to put up with this wave of hatred online and an occasional, the LA Times reporter calling you the chunky soccer mom? That, I would be thrown off the radio if I did that to anybody. I would. So how do you warn the standards are different for conservatives and liberals, and the conservatives are going to get hammered?
Well, I think the most important thing is to know who you are on the front end. I am thankful that I'm not looking for definition to my life from the New York Times or the Washington Post. I have that already from a God who created me. And so knowing who I am and what I believe in before I ever stepped foot in that building was really important for me, and something I try to talk with my kids about. They're young, so it can be difficult, and there are certain things, frankly, I just try to shield them from having to be part of some of the nastiness that's involved. But in the moments that they are exposed to, we try to be honest. We try to talk about why we treat other people with respect. No matter if we disagree with them, we still can do that and do so in a respectful way. So I use it as best I can to be a teaching moment of how we don't want to act and how we don't want to treat other people, because that's not how we want to be treated. I think it's as simple as, going back to the very basics of treat other people the way you want to be treated. And we tried to use those moments to pass that message to our kids.
One of the winsome things about the book is that you say nothing negative about anyone that isn't publicly known, like the Michelle Wolf controversy. In fact, you say nice things about Jim Acosta, which will stun a few people.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Burka.
Quote, "The president has directed me to ensure that federal agencies cease."
It's the Dennis Prager Show for this Thursday, the 10th of September. Off the last gentleman's call, the NFL has a release here as they kick off the league's second century. It does appear for the opener tonight, Chiefs hosting the Texans, and throughout the Week 1 games, that there will indeed a special rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing" will be featured during NBC's pregame coverage and celebrated throughout kickoff weekend. Now, this is great. This was first written as a poem by a gentleman named James Weldon Johnson, circa 1900. It's a beautiful old song. It has become known sort of colloquially as the Black National Anthem, but technically there is no Black National Anthem. We don't have any other national anthems but one. And I'll tell you, if this exercise of "Lift Every Voice and Sing" keeps everybody on their feet for the actual national anthem thereafter, I'm totally good with it. That's great. Whatever it takes to get these people to leave our anthem alone. And here's the thing. The NFL release continues to honor the kickoff of an extraordinary season. The league's newest brand campaign, "It Takes All of Us," will leverage the scale and power of the NFL to unite our country. Okay, guys, you want to unite our country? I'm all in with you. I support you. I salute you. And if they want to offer up that rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing" as a unifying thing, great. I will gladly join the quite literal chorus of those saying that's a great idea. But I'll tell you what, if in the moments thereafter, the NFL allows its players to sully the real national anthem, to show disrespect to our flag with their own political gestures, A, I'm out, and B, we will know that all of this lovely, happy talk of unity was pure BS. And what the NFL is about is indoctrination. So, I guess we'll know tonight. And in days to follow through the NFL's Week 1. 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. We are in Chicago. Daniel, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good, thanks.
Pleasure to be on.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I remember 9/11. Still like it was yesterday, man.
How old were you?
I was about, 29 now, so 8 or 9 or 10 years old.
There you go.
There.
You bet. Uh-huh.
That was the last day I ever wanted to be an engineer. I was in school, and I didn't know what was going on, and until I got home, and my parents were crying, and I saw what was happening on the TV, and I just remember having so many mixed emotions. In the West, at the end of the day, I knew there was one thing I had to do, and it was join the military to go fight for my country.
Did you?
In 2000, I did, and in 2014, I commissioned as a lieutenant in the Army Reserve.
What a joy!
Then,
oh, so good, so good to hear. And where are you serving? Describe your service now. Where are you? What's going on with you now?
So right now I'm finally back home, but this last year I was deployed to the Middle East for about 9 months here. And
my goodness. Well, then let me ask you. Then you're the best person to ask. Look at what you've done and look at what it spurred you to do. I'm so grateful to you. We're not done. Terrorism still exists, but do you kind of feel like the war, as it's been sort of loosely described, do you feel like we've kind of won?
You know, I would say the threat's always going to be out there. Extremism is like a cancer. It'll never go away unless you completely obliterate it. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it's at bay right now, and our countrymen and our allies, we're all doing a good job.
Well, it's thanks to folks like you. It is thanks to young men like you. What a magnificent story. Daniel, thank you. He's like 10 years old for 9/11 and says, I'm joining the military. And a decade later, he does, and still there. God bless you, sir. We are in Libertyville, Illinois. Hey, John. Mark Davis, welcome. In for Dennis. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I agree with you about pretty much everything, but I really
that makes it extra fun. It's extra nice to hear from you.
You know what we agree on? We both agree on Ray Charles' version of America the Beautiful.
There you go. There's unity.
I would just say, before I get to my point, I just want to make sure we only have one anthem and we only honor one flag. Correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. We agree on that, too. I wanted to ask you about this idea that we've won the war on terror. I think that it's important to remember that while there may be less terror coming from Islamic fundamentalists, there's considerably more coming from the right wing. And in fact,
what?
Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, testified before Congress that hello?
No, I'm fine. Please quantify this huge boost in right wing terror. Whom are we talking about, please?
Well, I wanted to point out that the director of the FBI.
Answer the question. Just very serious. Answer the question. I mean, are there people you can describe as that in some cave somewhere, and they occasionally rear their ugly heads? Absolutely. By what measure? Just you and me talking. By what measure are you making the statement that right wing terror is somehow in some serious climb? Whom are you talking about?
Well, because the FBI director has identified it as the number one source of domestic terror, and because of names like Patrick Stein, Curtis Allen, Gavin Wright, Jeremy Christian.
No one knows who these people are. You make my point for me. You have made my point for me. You make my point for me in going to individuals who, I mean, I can find you individuals who are terrible people, but that's not what you said. You said that there's some large upswing, some significant boom in right-wing terror, and I'm sorry, that's just factually false.
So you're saying that FBI director is incorrect?
I say you're completely mischaracterizing the FBI director. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Source of domestic terror that we face.
But again, so I'll just give you one more chance, just conversationally. We're sitting around having coffee. Wow, how about those right-wing terror groups? Who are you talking about?
Did you see what happened in Charlottesville, sir?
Of course I did.
Okay.
And of course I did.
A bunch of right-wing organizations got together in Charlottesville and a woman was killed.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's not what you said. You didn't say every once in a while. You didn't say every once in a while somebody does a bad thing. That's absolutely true. And wherever we find that, we should shut it down, prosecute it, and speak out against it. But that's not what you said. That's not your premise. Your premise is this is some vast enterprise, and that's factually false.
Respectfully, sir, I attempted to read you a list of 12 names.
Ooh, 12 names. Look out. 12 names, dude. I got to tell you, when you have 50,000 more, or when you have 12 names of groups that are on the prowl everywhere, creating actual havoc beyond the occasional flare-up, then you'll have a point. Be right back.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. The recent unveiling of the Republican agenda for a second term gave much encouragement to many who need it. Defeat COVID, create jobs, disentangle from China, provide school choice, teach American exceptionalism unapologetically, defend the police as an institution, oppose human trafficking. These and other measures offer sanity, flourishing, and hope to an embattled country. No agenda can cover every issue. Two outstanding issues need platforming, however: religious liberty and abortion. The Trump administration has taken stands on both of these momentous matters, and to good effect. In days ahead, though, supporters of religious liberty and the unerasable humanity of the unborn need more support, not less. Religious liberty, after all, is for this gloriously free society the first freedom. Among other righteous ends, it enables a diverse coalition of many voices to speak on behalf of the unborn, until the murderous abomination of abortion is a distant memory. I'm Owen Strand.
The Pepperdine School of Public Policy, America's unique graduate program for leaders. Learn more at publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden saying during an event at Grace Lutheran Church in Wisconsin, quote, "A black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison," close quote. You feel that guilty? That Thomas Edison now, he needs to be taken down a few notches? Thomas Edison now needs to be canceled? Nobody's mad at Joe Biden for making this false statement? But you let Donald Trump pass along some statement that somebody else made. Oh, my goodness, Donald Trump peddling conspiracy theories. Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record. When I was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, I would go to black churches and we'd sit down and talk about how we're going to organize to desegregate lunch counters and movie theaters in Wilmington, Delaware. No evidence whatsoever that he did that. And don't go by me, go by New York Times. You know, New York Times, paper of record. The one that hasn't endorsed a Republican since 1956, that paper. Lied for decades. Lied and said the NAACP has endorsed me every single race. NAACP puts out a statement, actually, we've never endorsed you at all because we're a 501c3. We can't do that. Well, you know, I got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela when he's in prison under apartheid South Africa. I was with Andy Young. Andy Young says, "You kidding me? No, I didn't get arrested, and then neither did Joe Biden." By the way, Joe Biden says he was in the streets of Soweto when he got arrested. That's 900 miles away from where Nelson Mandela was housed.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
What do you make of the four debate moderators? We've got Chris Wallace, Steve Scully, Kristen Welker, and Susan Page for the vice presidents. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting mix of people. Certainly, I think you've got some people, you know, seasoned journalists who have been around a long time, like Chris Wallace, Susan Page, who have been kind of doing, you know, big moments and big stage for a while. And then you have kind of a newcomer in Kristen Welker. Steve Scully, obviously having been around, but also I think I like Steve being a moderator. He is certainly more of a news guy. So I think he's a good middle of the road moderator. The rest, we'll see. The good news is I think Donald Trump is going to do spectacular regardless of who the moderator is. I think he actually tends to do better in an interview that is harder. I think it's when he really rises to the moment, and I feel very comfortable about where he'll be with that group of moderators.
Sarah, in speaking for myself, you draw the distinction between Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity on one side, and on the other side, news journalists.
It's the Thursday Dennis Prager Show, September 10th. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Dennis will return tomorrow. Very important off the last gentleman's call, which I greatly appreciate. Just as some people will obviously seek to overstate white supremacist, right-wing terror, what do you want to call about it? What do you want to call it? I certainly don't want to understate it. To the extent that there are execrable, terrible souls who, under the auspice of white supremacy or whatever twisted doctrine they may wish, hurt people, do terrible things. Of course, that's something the FBI should pay attention to. Absolutely. Of course they should. I think the gentleman is referring to a day in February when the when Christopher Wray did indeed have a quote in which he said that we elevated to the top level priority racially motivated violent extremism, so that it's on the same footing in terms of our national threat banding as ISIS and homegrown violent extremism. I think that's fine. That is in no way Christopher Wray saying that, white supremacy is the greatest threat of terror that we've had. No, it is not. No, it is not. And in fact, playing this, can you top this with what type of terror, is the worst and bodes the most ill, is a fool's game. If somebody wants to kill Americans from some foreign perch of jihadism, that's terrible. If somebody wants to blow up an abortion clinic and kill people, that's terrible. If somebody wants to blow up a school full of black churchgoers or walk in and shoot them, that's terrible. I think what gets us into a bit of a, going down a rat hole is the notion of what's more numerous, what's more of a pressing or imminent threat. And I'll just tell you, in a country that has identified racism as the worst thing you can be attitudinally, the notion that, white supremacy and any terrorism that may accompany it is some enormous, growing, seething scourge, is factually false. Now, are there people that can be found who will do terrible things on those dark motivations? Of course there are. And they should be found and prosecuted and thrown under the jail and all of those things. But there is an attempt by the left, and it's all part and parcel of their campaign to identify America as a still racist hellhole. And I just won't have it. And there's nothing in any of my tamping down of these points about overstating white supremacism that means that I'm somehow less than ardent in my distaste for and my wish to find actual real white supremacists. Yes, in various caves of iniquity, they do still exist. And guess what? They always will. Just like jihadis around the world, they will always be around somewhere. And when they rear their head, we need to be there to respond. Alrighty, we're in California with Leslie. Hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. How you doing?
Hi, Mark.
Hey.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
So regarding the war on terror, I think it's gotten worse. I think it's transformed into domestic subversion. It's become more insidious.
How you mean?
And we've been infiltrated, possibly occupied by jihad here in America. In Oakland recently, there was a protest, and the protesters were chanting "Death to America."
Yeah, you'll get that every once in a while. And that's terrible. And that's something that we need to pay domestic attention to. Suggesting that it's somehow worse than it was 20 years ago, that might be a little odd.
Well, just that it's here,
It's always been here. It's always been here. There have been jihadis crawling across American soil since the era of Yasser Arafat, if not before. Right. I think we've probably gotten better at finding it. I think 9/11 opened a lot of eyes about things going on globally, probably opened a lot of eyes. I mean, here in Dallas, we had a great sting operation. A guy was going to blow up a skyscraper a decade ago. Found him, got him a fake detonator, had him in a car, and he hit the button, and the next thing he heard was the cuffs being slapped on his wrists. And as I think President Bush said, whether it's foreign terrorism or people trying to do things on American soil, we have to be right. The people looking to fight it, the good guys, have to be right 100% of the time. They only have to be right once. And 9/11 was one day. And it took a lot of practice, I'm sure. But and we had our guard down, to be sure. We were not on a war footing. We were asleep at the switch. And 9/11 woke us up in a hurry in a number of ways. But your overall point is sound, and that is that. And if I'm sitting here saying, well, we seem to have won the war on terror, in no way. That just means that ISIS, Al Qaeda, they're not blowing stuff up anymore. Bin Laden's gone. Trump's taking care of a couple of other, bad kingpins. They are in retreat and they are cowed into submission. And I'd like to keep them there. Are they gone? No. Do they pose zero threat? Absolutely not. All righty. 1-8-Prager-776, 1-8-Prager-776. I think we are moments away, so we'll be right back.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
And we have had a number of presidents not see or not have the courage, more likely, to stand up to China and to pretend in a way that morality doesn't come into it. That if you're using slave labor, we don't care. Somebody else who used slave labor, we might as well profit off of it. I'm astounded that this president has had the courage to stand up to China.
I have watched this man and his statements over the years, so I was not surprised at all. And what surprised me is the degree to which he has fulfilled his promises. Standing up to China was one of the most courageous acts of, you have to go back, in my opinion, to Lincoln to find a president of his historic weight and gravitas and importance. I really believe he is that historic. Because he stopped cold the idea that a very simple economic principle, that it was not a zero-sum game. International trade, you could let the other trading partners take 0.4% off GDP every year, not a problem. And then suddenly people started looking around after this president said, free trade, it's costing us trillions. And he's right. And it did. And it would have continued until we were an abject debtor nation in perpetuity, were it not for Donald Trump. And to stand up against China took great guts, because China, as you know, is a formidable competitor. They're more than that. They are our enemy in a Cold War that is only intensifying.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Again, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, so you guys don't have to read those things or watch those things. But the big news for the last 3 days has been President Trump allegedly disparaged military fallen. And this has been something that they have been hyping on and pounding on and pounding on. Will it cut into President Trump's military support? How is this going to play in the suburbs? Donald Trump has had a history of disparaging people, so it seems consistent with character, yada, blah, etc. Now, I've told you a million times that if they wanted to be fair and balanced, the media could easily be focused on entirely different stories that one could make a case are at least as important, if not more important. This story was based upon 4 unnamed sources. It turns out Atlantic, the largest owner of Atlantic, is a big Joe Biden donor, contributed 7 figures, meets regularly with the reporter who did the story. I'm not saying that means the story is false. I'm just saying it suggests that maybe, just maybe, that should have been brought up. Tell me something. Which do you think is a bigger story? That Joe Biden said to Charlemagne the God, if you don't know whether or not you want me or Trump by now, you ain't really black. Which one offended more people? Donald Trump's alleged remarks about fallen soldiers, which he denies, and John Bolton, who does not like him, who was there, also denies? Or Joe Biden publicly saying, you ain't really black if you don't support me? Which one is more offensive?
Welcome, everybody. We're in our home stretch here on the Dennis Prager Show for Thursday. Mark Davis in for Dennis. Join us at 1-8-Prager-776. Drop me a tweet or anything you like there at Mark Davis, M-A-R-K Davis. All righty. We are in San Antonio. Jim, hey, Mark Davis in for Dennis. Happy Thursday. How are you?
Hey, happy Thursday, Mark. Enjoy your show.
Thank you. On Dennis's show.
You did an awesome job.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
For him. It's been a great
Appreciate
job.
it.
And I got to mention I'm in Texas, the home of our next Chief of the Supreme Court, Ted Cruz, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Ted Cruz.
I think I'd rather have him as senator and maybe the 46th president, if that's okay.
That would work too. You got that right. He's a shining star here in Texas. So my question is, first on this other national anthem that the BLM candidates want. I don't buy it for a second. The NFL has gone down the drain. I've lost all faith and support in them and that Roger Goodell nut job. But I have a question for you. Are you going to stand for that anthem that they play before or after the right national anthem?
There is no white national anthem, there is no black national anthem. There is one national.
I just said why. This is right. Correct.
Okay, well, there is no black national anthem. So if I'm at a game and it's time and it's before the actual national anthem, they do Lift Every Voice and Sing. Wow, great question. All right, so here's the path to answering it. Is there only one song we stand for? There's only one national anthem, but is that the only thing we stand for? No, I'm just asking. Is that to your mind? Okay. Well, I'm not okay. I wouldn't be driven to or compelled to. If everybody is, and it's just to be, I'll tell you what. You know what? If it's to show some respect for a revered tune, and what I get in return is everybody stands for the national anthem, I got no problem. Sure, why not?
Got ya. All right. Yeah. Well, that's good. Good topic. I enjoyed the show.
I appreciate you. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, what's a great question? Would you stand for Lift Every Voice and Sing? I guess you better. If you're there in Arrowhead tonight, you better. And it's funny because are they doing that there in the state of the NFL? I guess they are. The NFL statement talked about it if they mean during the telecast or in some video presentation or whatever. I don't know. Listen, anything. I'll do a whole lot of things. I mean, I won't do anything that's counterintuitive or that violates my core values or anything like that. But will I show some deference to people in order to have them leave my anthem alone? Sure. And take the win all day. And take the win. We're in Phoenix. Corey. Hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I'm actually
my pleasure.
Venus, a small town called Venus, Texas.
Oh, know it well.
It's a great little community. But
yes, indeed.
First off, I will kind of want to touch back on the topic of, I believe the guy by the name of Daniel spoke on the war and right-wing terror.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I'd love to pardon his ignorance, but I don't know if I can go there. And I don't even know what his main motive is.
Well, don't pick on other people. What's the point that you want to make?
The point I want to make is, no, he seemed like a great man, great person. Don't get me wrong, but
delightful.
We're always going to have war and terror. That's just part of it. And quite frankly, I think America has done nothing but great things to eliminate it.
Yeah, I mean that's part of my thought on this 19th anniversary of 9/11. I remember, 2002, 2004, 2007, 2010, 2012, 2013, all along the line. The question has probably been properly posed. When are we done here? And the answer is we're never going to be done. Terrorism, there'll be a residual amount of terrorism as long as we're alive. And it will rear its head every once in a while, and we'll smash it down, hopefully, when it does, and take out kingpins when we must. But as far as the constant beheadings and the constant spreading of the caliphate by the sword, and hundreds of thousands in the streets of cities across the Arab world, I got to tell you, that has been chased into submission. It just has, and I don't know. Alrighty, we are in Atlanta. William, hey, Mark Davison for Dennis. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Good.
To me, when they ignore the right wing radicalism and the white supremacists, it's chilling to us.
Who's ignoring it?
We know it exists.
William, who is ignoring it? Who is ignoring it?
No. Everybody. It's not talked about.
No one. No one. Absolutely no one ignores it.
Listen, you know how you talk about is bad apples? I'm telling you, they hide in the police department. and they use that as a cover. Hold on, listen to me.
No, I'm listening for the moment.
Hold on. That's why you always say there's good police. We all know this. But one thing we do know, we do also know that there's a white supremacist strain in there, and they kill us and abuse us.
That's just all right. To the extent, since you can't read minds and I can't and you can't, is there a figure that occurs to you? Is there a percentage of a large municipal police department that you think contains not just bad cops who need more training or not just unenlightened souls, but actual white supremacists? You know what I mean? Like how many? How many?
I think they exist in every.
To what extent?
In the United States.
To what extent?
That they're, I guess, 20% of the police
William,
department.
I want to pray for you. And I don't mean that, I just, for clarity, to open your eyes and open your ears, as I tell you, that is insane. It is insulting and insane. Because you're making crap up, William, and I love you. And I don't want you walking.
Hold on. Think about
I'm
this
ready.
this way. Half of the country is made up of Democrats and Republicans, and then you have white. I guess what? 70%. And think about, say if there's only 20% of you or 10% of you that are racist.
But that's we got a little bit of terms. You're talking about are there racist cops? Probably active white supremacists? No, scarcely any. My brother, I mean it. I love you. Be right back.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Los Angeles County has notified Grace Community Church that it will soon be evicted from a parcel of land that it uses as a parking lot. Why?
Yeah, it's sort of the final act strategy on their part to shut us down as a church. We did what everybody else did when COVID first came in. We didn't want people to die because of something we did, an insensitivity or anything like that. So when we heard there were going to be millions dying, we shut the church down. I went to an empty 3,000-seat auditorium, and we did live stream. After about 4 or 5 weeks, our people began to realize that the pandemic wasn't what they were told it was. Slowly, they just started coming back. We didn't make an announcement. We didn't say anything official.
So just organically, you emptied your church, went to televisual services, and then they started coming back?
They started coming back in the dozens and then the hundreds. And in a few weeks, there were 6,000, then there were 7,000. And
what is your average group of people worshiping?
Yes, it's about 7,000 on a normal Sunday. So we had them filling up the place. We put up a tent in the parking lot. They filled that. We have a chapel. They filled that. We have a gym. They filled that. People just kept pouring back, and they didn't buy the narrative. They absolutely didn't. And
then what happened? What happened with the authorities, Pastor MacArthur?
They sued us, and we went to court 4 times, and we won all 4 of those court hearings.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I know the governor here in Arizona, Doug Ducey, has been very thankful of that, to get that kind of authority to handle the response. Sounds like you might want a stronger federal, response to this. And do you trust the governors to handle what's best for their states?
Well, I hope we can trust the governors, but here's the deal. The federal government, there's a constitutional issue whether the federal government could issue such a mandate. I don't think constitutionally they could, so I wouldn't issue a mandate. But I'd plead with. I carried my mask with me everywhere I go. I'd set an example.
Did you heard that, right? Because he did say he would issue a mandate. Derek, do we have that clip from weeks ago? First thing I do, executive order, mask mandate. Now he's walking it back. You know why he's walking it back? Because he's terrified of losing. The Democrats see what
It's the Dennis Prager Show, final segment, and a word about our last gentleman whom I really love and want to reach out to. How does that happen? How does somebody walk around in America and think that 20% of cops are white supremacists? Well, you know what? Look around. Look around at the culture. Look around at the media. Look at what the NFL and the NBA are making people do. And look at the way that they have kowtowed and submitted to extremism. And of course, people are going to believe whatever cockamamie stuff that's put in their heads. More on that in just a second. You think this is a pretty important election? Yes, it is. Speaking of policing, cops are on the ballot. Our nation's cities are on the ballot. Our safety is on the ballot. Our way of life on the ballot. So get on over to the Job Creators Network and their wonderful, wonderful effort called Keep America America.com. Keep America America. Keep the country the country. Keep America America.com. It is the biggest conservative get out the vote effort ever. You'll be given tasks that can make a difference in November. Do a little, do a lot, do what you can, but please do something. This entire effort sponsored by the Job Creators Network, working with the biggest conservative host in America. Proud to be a part of it. Keep America America.com. Check it out. Do what you can. Keep America America.com. All right. What a spectacularly valuable call, and I appreciate the gentleman so much. One of the reasons why, if you ever find somebody asking you, well, so you got a Black Lives Matter pin on a flight attendant, what's the problem? You've got slogans on the back of NBA jerseys. What's the problem? You've got Black Lives Matter in the end zone of a football game. What's the problem? The problem is that this is what you do maybe in 1950s Mississippi. This is what you do when racism is a seething societal problem that the locals just don't get. That's not America 2020. And if this all got rolling with George Floyd, who the entire country looked at that and said, wow, that's bad. And what have we done rather than get down to the serious issues of policing that we face? We've engaged in all kinds of meaningless protests and shows of anger and discord that have failed to unify. That's the problem. And when people are listening to that nonsense and hearing America insulted as some kind of racist hellhole, that's how you get people walking around and saying, well, surely 20% of the cops are actual card-carrying white supremacists. The wonderful news, the good news, is that that is completely false. Do we have racists among us? Absolutely. Might the occasional one be in a cop uniform? Absolutely. Should that be found and fought? Absolutely. Let's stand together and do that and not make stuff up. Alrighty, we're seconds away from done. Sean, give me a clue as to how many seconds that is. Sean, Christian, Leslie, thank you very much. God bless y'all. See you soon. See you doing Larry Elder tomorrow, in fact. Have a great one.